here. It is 10:02, so just give a couple extra minutes for folks to join us. I'm sure people will be popping in and out all morning. We're so excited to be here. Of course, this is a little bit different than usual as per the last year and a half of our lives. So here we are in the 42nd annual Endangered Species Fair for 2021. This year we are capturing the spirit of this event. Next year we sure do hope to be seeing all of everybody's faces in person back in Cedar Grove. But this year our program is just a little bit different, but we're still here to celebrate the natural world around us. So I'm just gonna really quickly go over the program for today, and then I'll pass it off to our first speaker. So today, we're gonna deal with technology a little bit, and bear with me as we fumble through some things, which is kind of normal in these times. Today we have a series of presentations and workshops. With these presentations and workshops, you'll be learning what some folks around the region are doing and learn some things about their area of specialty, and have the opportunity to engage with them with Q&A sessions. So we will first present just the history and overview of the fair, talk about how the fair has sort of evolved in the past and where we're wanting to take it into the future. We have a student with us today who volunteers with Butte Environmental Council, talking about what students are doing in the community. A rare presentation, a presentation from AltaCal Autobot Society, and then from the Ecological Reserves, a presentation about fish and fire in Butte Creek. Cycling, planting trees. I've learned so much about planting trees these last 4 months. And then our crowning jewel, the virtual Procession of Species. So we're really excited about that video. We know that there was a lot of hard work that got put into puppets this year for puppet making, and we're so excited to share that video with you all. And we will be posting that to our YouTube channel later too, if anybody wants to go back and watch that Procession of Species parade. And then at the very end, we'll have some closing and call it a year, and just look forward to next year in person. Let's see. Here's our participants today. We'll go over that later also. And just really quick, a little bit about us, Butte Environmental Council, for anybody who is sort of new to our organization. We're a nonprofit based in Butte County, California. Our office is here in Chico. Our mission is to protect and defend the land, air, and water of Butte County and the surrounding region through action, advocacy, and education. We have a lot of programs going on right now. Rare and Urban Forest Revitalization Project are two projects that you will actually get some presentations from today. We have a community garden. We're doing a community forum series. You can see that on our YouTube page, and the Creek Watch Hotline. There's a huge list of events that we've got going on this year, including this one today, May 1st. And we're just really excited for all that we're doing. We envision a community where humans are living in harmony with the earth and where they are engaged, empowered, and organized to advocate for those environmental interests. We were formed in 1975, so for over 45 years, we've had a significant voice in shaping the health of the environment and policies of Butte County and beyond. So thank you so much again for being here and participating with us today. Or if you're watching this later when we post it to our YouTube channel because you couldn't quite make the 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. time here on Saturday, May 1st, we're really glad that you could check out our show. Let's see, at this time, I would like to, actually, before I pass it off to Kathy, just to let you all know, those of you who are participating, you're out there, there is a feature in this platform called Run the World that if you have questions or you have comments, you can ask to have the mic. There's a button that says grab the mic, and one of the moderators of this event can tell the speaker that somebody has a question or a comment, and then we will pass you the mic, which will allow you to be seen and heard through this platform. So you're not out there just watching this. This can be interactive if you want to speak up and ask questions or make comments. All right, Kathy, are you in there ready to give us a little bit of your experience with the fair, sort of how it's evolved from your perspective over the last several years? Kathy has been with the fair for, she allowed me to say decades, and so I'm really glad that she's here to be able to speak on some of the past fair and endangered species fair and how it's sort of evolved over the last few decades.
Well, as I was explaining to Caitlin, that I only have my perspective, which was a very narrow perspective of the fair. It's long, but it was just what I did. And I had to really go back and dig. And I've been talking to my daughter and my partner and going, what do you remember? What do you know? But the very beginning that I participated, the fair had already been going a number of years. And it was 1983. And my daughter and I and Scott Lawson, who owns Preservation Press, or it was Preservation Press then, it was the printed image. We got Ed Caldwell's button machine. I don't know if any of you have seen a button machine, but you put the plastic in, you put the metal in, you put the picture in, and make a button. And we let kids make buttons. And we had National Geographic, and I believe it was a fundraiser for Beck. And my daughter was saying how crazy it got after a while. She was 7 or 8, and she said last night it was horrible. She said everything set up. She had a National Geographic, and she had scissors, and she ran the booth. And kids were throwing National Geographics around, and they were all over the grass, and she was running around trying to keep it together as this little 8-year-old. So anyway, that was really sweet to remember her, to hear her humorous memory. But in the next year, I just went, this fair needs something to perk it up. I mean, it was booth related, people walked through, and the booths were wonderful and informative. I don't remember them being very interactive back then. It was informational. You saw Fish and Wildlife, you know, with their whatevers, and, you know, and it was like pretty two-dimensional, let's say. And I really wanted to bring some 3 and maybe 4-dimensional. So I got some moving people together, and I said, and musicians. I said, let's create something. So we did, and it was very similar to the picture that was just up in 1987. That really is the beginning dance that we did, which eventually became the Endangered Species dance. And that was a huge project with I don't know, it came out to be like, might have been 60 people involved at some point with costumes and masks and you know, just create this amazing informative dance about the endangered species at the time and threatened species and some extinct species. And it was very moving, but when it first started, I was late to the table because I was in the East Coast, and everybody all my friends had taken they picked the kit box and the cute animals and the Mariposa butterfly. And so when I got back to make my mask, they said, well, the condor, somebody has to take the condor. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want the condor. And as I started to get the pictures of the condors and make this mask to go on me, I started to fall in love with the condor. And it seemed to design or guide me in so many ways, the condor. But then I went east, I saw Bread and Puppet, which everyone should look up, Bread and Puppet, amazing political action theater group, a long time Vermont theater group. And I got inspired about big puppets, and theater. So I came back to Chico and I tried to get a group together to help me create something for the fair. And I could get nobody interested. So I went home and I started making my Mother Earth puppet. And a lot of the things that I'm mentioning burned in the fire, the campfire. So Mother Earth is one of them. And she was a beautiful, tall puppet, and everything came together around her for many, many years. She became kind of a staple of the fair. And she wasn't, there was also a time period where this woman came, Anne, who had the huge, huge puppets. They were like 40 feet tall, and everyone in the community who wanted to could be a part of it. And so she came for a month ahead of time, and we all participated in her puppets. And that was extraordinary time. I don't know if any of you were old enough to be here for when Anne would come, but it was quite amazing. And so then I had a bunch of homeschoolers, and we would come every year to the fair. And that was when I first started doing puppets with them. And they would study endangered species, and they would build their puppets at home. And then they would come together, and they would create a story with their puppets, which was challenging because they're all different, you know, the tiger and the whatever, and to make a story out of all these characters was difficult. But the focus was always that Mother Earth was going to save, and so she would come up out of something. Like one year I made a huge silver mountain out of drink boxes turned backwards, and I made boulders cut out boulders out of the big soy milk boxes and stapled them all together onto this big frame, and Mother Earth came up out of the silver mountain. But that went on for a while, and they created stories themselves, the kids. And then one year I didn't do anything, and I decided to make a condor puppet. And that was the year that John Mers had his booth for the, and still things were growing. The fair was growing, it was changing places. The big draw was always the live animals, and it seemed like they got more and more animals, and that was always a big deal. But John said to me, get involved with the Endangered Species Act. There's a hearing in Stockton, and I think this was about 1998. And I had built this condor puppet, and the kids just flew it around. So I brought my homeschoolers together, and we made a 30-foot web, like a dream catcher. And we created a web, and we took it with us to, it came to the fair, but it also went down to the hearing. I don't know how much time I have, but this is a beautiful story about the web, but I won't tell you because I think I'm going to run out of time. So this went on, and then there was always the competition of the Pioneer Day Fair and the Endangered Species Fair. So we decided we'll do both. We'll get up in the morning, we'll do the fair, we'll draw people, we'll do the parade, we'll draw people to the fair. So we did that for years, a whole procession of puppets and streamers and story, and you know, and then we would advertise and then go to the fair so people could realize you can do both, so that went on for a while, and things still continue to grow and move, and then I started going, you know, I don't really want to do endangered species anymore. It's depressing. I just want to do the celebration of all species. So I created the Celebration of All Species parade, and then it came for years and years, and that's what we did. And nobody helped me. I just had my partner and one person. I'd show up with all this stuff so that like 30 or 40 people could come during the fair, and they could make things like streamers or whatever, or claim a puppet and then get in the parade, and then we would sing and dance at the end. But then the stories got, like there was the box story. I don't know if any of you were around for the box story, but it was rather controversial because it was people at the fair had probably just gone to Costco to buy whatever they needed for the fair. And I was asked to maybe not come to the World Music Festival because there were considerations, because it was about the box stores taking over the town. And so anyway, there was also the garter snake, when it was a garter snake for the theme. And my students really wanted to do something about a dragon. And I'm going, how are we going to put this dragon and this garter snake and make a story? So we made a dragon that had, you know, big head, like a snake head, and wings and feet, and little animals would come up and asked them. The mouse came up and said, I really want to be able to fly. So the dragon gives its wings away and it becomes a bat. And then the dragon gives its feet away and gives something else away until it's just nothing, but it starts to, it's a big piece of cloth, and the kids there's cardboard for them to get under it. And so at the fair, were any of you kids during this time period? And all the kids got underneath, and it got longer and longer and longer and longer until it was like a 30-foot snake and went around the fair. So there was just many stories that the kids did, including political action. They wrote a story about trying to save Ruddy Creek outside and south of Oroville. They did a whole story, and they had clipboards, and they were the bureaucracy, and they protested the bureaucracy, and they I don't know, it was amazing. So it's been, for me, I realized I probably did at least 25 or 30 fairs out of all the fairs. And so again, it's just my perspective. And I was completely consumed with my perspective. But in the meantime, looking out at what was growing out there and how the booths became interactive. And there were more kids that participated in the booths. And then the Chudies arrive, and we'll find out about that soon. I can see a few people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wow. Yeah, I want to talk to you a lot more about all of these stories. And, as I'm listening to you, I'm new to my position here at Beck, and I've been a very busy teacher the last 8 years, and I think I've really missed out a lot on many fairs. And I'm just, trying to envision how this is going to look next year. And I think that there are so many people in our community like you, Kathy, that we can really draw on the history of the fair and the knowledge that sort of has helped it evolve to what it has become, and to be known as. And I really look forward to, when we have time in a few months to start to sit down and really brainstorm how we're going to bring the fair back bigger, better, stronger next year. And I'm just really excited to start to piece that together. And I know there's still so much interest from folks in the community to help with big puppets and to do the parade, and also the educational booths can be interactive, which is what we're kind of going for today, even though it's virtual. It can be educational, but it is really a celebration of all species. And I think what's important is to recognize that as a lot of us who are in environmental activism, we really focus on climate change these days, because climate change is really the undercurrent of everything that's happening, but it all has to do with human interaction with the environment, or the negative impact of human interaction with the environment. And that's really causing a ripple effect, which does reach our species. We're seeing thousands of plant and animal species be decimated in lots of ways that are primarily due to climate and then resource consumption. So I think that it doesn't have to be depressing. We can celebrate species and what they do for the environment and what we can do to support them in the future. So I'm really looking forward to maintaining this event and being a positive force in the community to help educate and bring action to our species, not just the animals and not just the cute animals, but also our plant species as well. I think that's going to be a really good, fun, positive piece in our lives as we move forward under these changing conditions. So thank you so much for being here with us. I'm gonna go on to the next slide and pass it off to our first presenter. Again, for those of you who are participating, or even other speakers, you don't have to be silent. Our other speakers, you're just as much participants in this as well. So if you have questions of any of the speakers, please feel free to unmute yourself and interact like this. I want this to be an interactive experience for everybody. So so jump in there and if you're excited about something, speak up and let's really get into it. So
I just want to add one thing. That is the interaction that happens at the fair. That's what, even if if there were no outside audience that came to see or learn, that's the thing I think I love, and they can so continue, is that this booth, whoever did this amazing booth, meets this person, this amazing booth, and pretty soon there's this interaction going on, and you know, that's just that's what it's the seeds and the essence of what we're doing together.
Yeah, that synergistic energy is very revitalizing, I think, for everybody. Good point. Thank you. All right, so next we have Neil. Neil's going to speak on what students are doing in our community. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, Neil, so that you can. And I'm going to mute myself.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for the introduction. It's wonderful. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, hi everyone, just to start, my name's Neil. I'm a junior and I currently attend Chico High School. I'm also the president and founder of the Sustainability Club at the high school, and I run a shoe drive sort of organization, so part of another nonprofit called Step Forward. And so what I'm going to be speaking about today is, first, it's going to be some of the things that I want to change in sort of the educated policies surrounding environmental science in schools. And then it's just going to go on to some of the stuff that I've done and sort of some of the activism that I've done as a student and what I've done with my club to sort of just help the environment and make a small difference, whatever that might be. So this is sort of what I'm going to be covering. It's, of course, going to be an introduction, some of the actions that we can take or we can push for, and then sustainability at the college, as well as then like school cafeteria and food services and the waste and how we might deal with that. And then finally, it's going to go into some of the stuff that I have done, such as like my sustainability club, the shoe drive, and then just quick closing and thank you. So just to introduce the subject, climate science literacy really is, in its truest sense, it's an understanding, through books and through literature and through any sort of written work, the effects of our actions on the environment and what sorts of implications those might have in the future. And truly, climate science literacy is something that students need to know in order to just make true and educated decisions on some of the policies they're going to be voting on in the future, or some of the things some of the choices they might make, whether it's really worth it to walk an extra 10 steps to the recycling bin and put something there and sort of see that change. And that's why I think climate science literacy is so important, because the first step to a change is educating the youth. And so some of the things that I want to make changes to, or some of the actions that I think we can all sort of push for, especially in schools, is going through the different grade levels and sort of introducing these sustainable measures step by step, and not trying to push it on anyone, but just making everyone aware of their existence and sort of their importance to the environment and sort of the implication of our actions on the environment. So, for instance, at the elementary school level, I think it's so important to just introduce students to these sciences and just let them see how cool environmental science is, because climate science literacy just starts with a passion, and we need to instill this passion in the students. And this really would occur through school gardens. And I think school gardens are such a great thing. And like, for instance, Emma Wilson is a school garden, Sarah View is a school garden. So they're fairly accessible for schools, especially in Chico. And being able to teach students through these gardens, maybe some of like the nitrogen fixation stuff, or some of the environmental impacts that fertilizers and compost and other things that we can do have, as well as with the coloring sheets from 3rd grade and below, teaching them about this is recycled paper and how we can recycle these dried crayons to make new ones and how important that is. And then this would sort of go into middle school, where it's a bit more formal, where there's an addition of an elective where we encourage school-wide sustainability initiatives, such as the reuse and repurpose of course materials and school resources. So this of course includes textbooks, notebooks, highlighters, especially pencils and pens, and being able to encourage these students and through this elective, make students aware of what really is happening in the environment today and what sorts of implications those might have tomorrow. And finally, I think what's super important in high school is developing a CTE pathway. As of now, there is a sustainable agriculture pathway, but that just does not apply to a wide enough scale, because we need to get everyone to see there's so many careers in environmental science besides just sustainable ag. I mean, like as of now, so many jobs opened up, and I know from personal experience in saying that there's a dearth of people being able to find there's a dearth of people able to work in these jobs in the sector, and that's super important because CTE Pathway prepares students for the future to work in their careers, and I think just developing sustainability one would be such a great development because preparing people for careers is really important. And this is sort of going to continue on to the local college because building this progression from elementary school to middle school to high school and finally into college, you're able to truly see the progression and the learning that students will achieve through sustainability and sort of the things they're going to learn and some of the choices they're going to make as a result. And so at Chico State, there's like a general education pathway that students can follow, and that can help them meet general education requirements onto a new career. And also just addressing these state standards, because the development of an environmental science class or a sustainability class at the high school, the elementary school, or the middle school level would be great, but it's going to take a lot because state standards are very fixed. And so, but making these sorts of changes and pushing for a change is all we can do right now. And I know one day it's going to change. And so one of the problems I have tried to address is the school and cafeteria food services, because as of now, Chico Unified School District serves 5,000 students daily. And this means that on a minimum, 5,000 students, of course, are being served, but also 5,000 meals are being put out. And what that means is that the resources for these 5,000 meals are being used. And this has particular implications for the COVID-19 pandemic, because among these 5,000 meals, all of them go out in plastic bags with a lot of napkins and a lot of plastic utensils, and of course being all individually wrapped in plastic wrap or in saran wrap or whatever that might be. And so such a unjudicious use of resources is really very criminal, because just maybe taking out 1 or 2 napkins or maybe saying utensils are on an ask for basis would really limit the amount of waste that can be made and also save a lot of resources and some money. And finally, I want to go into my own initiatives and what I've been able to do. So I founded a club, and it's called SIPS. It's an acronym for Schools Integrated Peer Sustainability. And what that means is that schools need to integrate sustainability into the curriculums and into clubs, but not in a push way, we need to make all these changes, yada, 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 but more so in an educative sense, just educating the students on how their choices impact the environment and getting students passionate through education. And just allowing students to help save the environment and take part in such activities so that we can reduce school carbon footprints and methane emissions, save resources, and as a result, save money. And also create awareness, not only at schools, but also in community and even at homes, where students can take it home and just teach their own folks about, here's some things that we can do as a family to just play our part, to do our part for the earth. And one of the ways that I've been able to do that is a shoe drive. So shoe drives are such a great thing because everyone has so many of them. For instance, I know I have shoes from elementary school that I'm never going to wear again, and I might not even using them ever. And so having a shoe drive is such a great way to allow people to donate extra that doesn't cost any money, and it allows us to all make a significant change to the environment, because as of now, I've run shoe drives through local businesses and elementary schools, for instance, Parkview and Wilson, Chico High, PV, and currently at Bidwell Junior. And so shoes are a really big user of resources, because upwards of 2,300 gallons of water is produced in the making of one pair of shoes, and over 14.6 kilograms of CO2 are produced in the making of one shoe. So as you can see, there's a lot of resources being put into just one shoe. And so when we're able to donate them, we're able to sort of recycle and reuse what's already been made. So we stop the use of some of the resources, because such a large amount of our resources in our water and the amount of carbon footprint we're creating in this industry is going to have a huge impact on the environment in the future. And so as of now, through all these elementary schools and local businesses, I've been able to collect over 1,200 pairs of shoes and send them to children who need them in areas like India, Cambodia, Sub-Saharan Africa through a nonprofit. And it's just been such a wonderful experience, and it's something that I think we can all contribute to. And anyhow, these are just some words I wanted to leave you with. Some of the writing I've done in the past, and it just means a lot to me. And I just wanted to thank everyone so much for giving me the time to speak. It really means a lot to me. Did anyone have any questions?
Yeah, Neil, I was wondering, the nonprofit that you do the shoe drive with, how did you find them and connect with them?
Yeah, so I was just looking for ways I could ship shoes, because one of the primary issues with getting shoes to people who need them is the shipping cost, because it costs a lot of money to ship stuff. But this nonprofit, they've been able to make a deal through Zappos and UPS to ship their shoes for a very subsidized rate to make it affordable, just to give back to people who need them. And so that I sort of found when I was just looking for ways I could make changes to the community.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm just amazed at all the work that you're doing, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your question. I really appreciate it. Cool.
It is a little bit like talking into the void, and I wanted to give you kudos and thank you and carry on, and however anybody can help, everybody's here.
Yeah, thank you so much. That means a lot to me. Yeah, I mean, Butte Environmental Council has already done so much for me, Miss Dalby in particular. Really can't thank them enough.
Yeah, a little shameless plug. I'm super proud of you, Neil. Neil was a student of mine when he was in 7th grade, and I don't think that I have very much to do with where he's at today, but I still am very proud of the young man that you are and have become, and all the work that you're doing. I just remember you as, a 7th grader who was very sweet and worked hard and very respectful, and just always wanting to do the right thing. So I'm really glad that you're part of our team, because you really are. When I joined Beck and learned that you were so involved, I was so excited to be able to continue to work with you. So just really appreciate your participation with us today too. And just keep up the good work. Do you get a chance to connect with other environmental student leaders at other schools? Are you in touch with any that are, I know that there's some at the junior high schools, and there's, I know a club, I think at Inspire, and I know you work with folks over at CSU Chico.
Yeah, so I've been in contact with a couple of other sort of sustainability clubs, or people who are really interested in doing sustainability. It's just with COVID, it's been a little bit tough for people to, partake in sustainability, especially right now when stuff's closed down and people are just really stressed with other stuff. And so I don't really want to pressure anyone into doing stuff that they just might not have the energy to do right now. But yeah, I mean, I've really tried to make contact with other student leaders and other people, because I think just spreading this passion for sustainability is so important. And I'm just really also grateful for everyone for giving me the time of day to speak, but also Ms. Dalby, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Neil. Something you just said that I really resonates with me is that everybody is really busy and is doing a lot of good things, and we're all spread pretty thin with so much going on and so many important things to be helpers with. And I've found that really leaning into those other people who are doing the same type of advocacy work is so valuable. And so I think it's great that you reach out to other peers that have the shared interests and shared visions. You'll draw energy from those people. You kind of build yourselves up, and that's really what I'm finding. I found that as an educator, and I'm finding that here in the environmental nonprofit world as well. So it's great. It's really great that you're getting this experience. So speaking of which, Neil, you have some tests to go study for.
Thank you so much for the kind words, Ms. Dalby, and thank you so much for everyone.
Yeah. Great job, Neil. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. So next up, it's gonna be fun doing this back and forth stuff today. Next up, I'm going to introduce Emily. Emily is Beck's Rare Coordinator. We also call her Teacher Emily around here. She is our educator and teaches how we are bringing recycling, composting, oil recycling, and waste reduction education to students and community members across Butte County. So she's going to give a bit of her workshop and answer any questions folks have, and just talk about all the good stuff that we're doing for waste reduction here with the Environmental Council. So Emily, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and hand it over to you.
All right. Hello, everyone. So great to be here. It was so great to hear about everything that Neil is doing with the Sustainability Club, and I'm excited to hear from everyone else as well. So yeah, my name is Emily Donaldson. I'm the RARE Program Coordinator, and RARE is a program of BEC that focuses on waste and trash. So our solid waste stream, we educate the community, and we have educational programs for students where we do in-class workshops or virtual this year. We've adapted it for the virtual classroom, and it's really fun and educational. And our lessons center around the 4 R's, which are reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot. So rot refers to composting. And so today I'll share a little bit with you all about what we teach in a RARE workshop, but also focus on why waste reduction practices are not only important for us, for humans, but also for wildlife and wildlife species. So I always start with the students asking them to just look around the room at all of the stuff around them. So the computer that you're watching this on, the chair that you're sitting in, and just take a moment to think about all of the resources and energy that go into making all of our stuff, right? Humans have created so many wonderful inventions, and it's important to remember that all of this stuff comes from nature in one way or another. So now I'll share my screen with you all as you're looking around at all the stuff around you. Okay, can you all see my screen? Okay, I see thumbs up, thanks Becky. So yeah, the story of our stuff, right? Where does our stuff come from? Where does it go when we're finished with it? The first step is extraction, right? We get all of our resources, our stuff from natural resources. So we'll talk more about that later, but comes from the earth in one way or another. And then it gets made into a product, and then it gets distributed to a store where you can buy it, and then you buy it, bring it to your house, use it, enjoy it. And then when you're all done with it, maybe it breaks, maybe it's just the wrapper of your stuff, and you dispose of it, right? So that's what we focus on, the disposal part. Whenever you put something in the recycling or the compost, it gets turned back into a resource to be made into something new. But most of our stuff we put in the trash can. Did you know that each American generates 4.9 pounds of trash per day on average? And only about 32% of that gets recycled or composted. So the vast majority goes in the trash can. Where does trash go after it leaves our trash cans? And again, this is interactive, so feel free to shout it out, or for anyone watching this later at home, they can keep the answer in their mind. Where does trash go after it leaves our trash cans?
I know.
Goes to the landfill. So it's a landfill, right? Basically, yeah, a big hole in the ground where we bury our trash. And you can see in this picture, there's a lot of things that maybe didn't need to go there, right? There's not really a person watching every truck, every garbage truck and saying, oh wait, that's recyclable, right? So once it goes to the landfill, even if it is recyclable, it's really hard to reclaim those items. And it's also important to remember that sometimes trash doesn't even make it to the appropriate place, to the landfill. It ends up in our environment as litter. So this is really harmful to us and also to wildlife and their habitats, of course. So we know that one of the biggest culprits of litter is single-use plastic. It doesn't decompose, it breaks down into really small pieces, making it really hard to clean up. And this is one of the biggest threats to wildlife species. That's why at BEC, one of our big efforts every year is to do a cleanup in our environment. So collecting all of that trash from our environment, putting it in the appropriate place to protect wildlife and humans and just our environment, the health of our environment in general. So whenever trash goes to the landfill, it gets compacted. So you can see this picture of a tractor. I always show this to the students, and they're pretty amazed at how big those tires are. It just drives over all the trash and smashes it. And because our garbage is compacted, food waste in a landfill decomposes anaerobically. So that produces methane, which is a greenhouse gas, traps heat in our atmosphere. So landfills do a lot to try to mitigate all of this damage to our environment through landfills. So if you could kind of see underground, you had X-ray vision, you could see that this is the structure of a landfill, right? We collect the methane and convert it into fuel. We do our best to prevent the leachate, the juices from our garbage, from leaking out into the surrounding groundwater. And at our landfill, the Neal Road Recycling and Waste Facility, this is where all of your trash and my trash and everybody's trash from Butte County goes here. Approximately 466 tons per day are brought here. They do divert tires, e-waste, wood, bikes, mattresses, and scrap metal. And you can see the picture here. We do field trips to the landfill as well. And so students get to go and see for themselves where all of our trash goes. And they say, oh, that looks like a big mountain, but it's actually just a big mountain of all of our garbage. And it's pretty impactful for students to see for themselves that trash doesn't just go away, it goes somewhere. An average of 83 garbage trucks go to this landfill every day. And this landfill is estimated to be full by the year 2048. So that is why we practice the 4 R's, right? It's just a couple of the reasons why it's so important to practice the 4 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot. So I'll run through this quickly. You guys feel free to shout out any questions or comments while I do this. So the first R, right, is the most important R, reduce. You can reduce by saying no to single-use items when you don't need them. If we don't create trash in the first place, then there's nothing to throw away. So even these little efforts of just, like Neil was saying, having the option to, have someone ask, do you want utensils with your to-go items? And then you can say no. These are just little efforts that they add up to make a huge difference. So reduce is number 1. Number 2 is reuse. And of course, reduce and reuse go hand in hand. You reuse by bringing your own bag, bringing your own water bottle. Again, really adds up to make a huge difference. Another way to practice the second R is to upcycle, get creative with your trash. So this is an activity we do with the students. During the workshop, we make a reusable bag from an old t-shirt, or we make some art from empty toilet paper rolls, lots of different upcycling craft ideas. We've made this wallet in the past from an old juice carton. And we do have a link on our website under the Rare tab where you can see all of these ideas for upcycling crafts. And then the third R, of course, is recycling. So reduce, reuse, recycle. Recycling is the action or process of converting our waste back into a resource. This starts at the materials recovery facility. So recycling truck comes and picks it up, brings it to the MRF, the materials recovery facility. And a lot of students don't know that there's actually people involved in sorting, pulling out the trash that gets mixed in with our recyclables. And I think each MRF is a little different, but it gets sorted by people and then machines, and the different materials get sorted out. Here in the United States, we have single stream recycling as opposed to multi-stream recycling. So it all kind of goes in one blue bin and goes to the MRF and gets sorted there. So then once it's sorted, it's, you got all your water bottles here ready to be turned back into a resource. And then I always ask the students, what do you think you could make out of this? And they come up with lots of different ideas. You could make toys, you could make jewelry. And then we start to think even bigger. We think you could even make an end use product like a playground or a park bench, or something that's going to be around for a long time. And whenever we do this, whenever we recycle, we reclaim resources, this helps us close the loop, right? So those pictures I showed on the first slide we turn that straight line into a circle when we recycle, turn it back into a resource. But in order for this to work, everyone has to work together. Consumers have to know what's recyclable and what's not. They also need to buy things made from recycled materials. It also depends on manufacturers and producers making things out of recycled materials, or being more conscious of the end of the life of that product, and how is this going to affect our environment. And also, builders, so everybody working together to reclaim these valuable resources from our waste stream. And this is how we close the loop.
And I'm going to interrupt you really quick. We have somebody is asking for the mic. Is this a good time to
sure,
pass the mic?
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't see that screen.
No, that's why I'm here.
Awesome. Yeah, take it away. Do we have a question? I think you're muted if you are trying to ask a question.
Okay.
Hey.
Hi, my name is Anthony Martone. I'm in 4th grade in Coffee Elementary School.
Hi, Anthony.
Hi. I just had a question. So, you were saying by 2048, the landfill will be filled. Where will all that trash go?
That's a great question, Anthony. Yeah, so that's something that we all have to think about is if you need to build a new landfill, it's really hard to find a place for the landfill, right? Because do you want a landfill in your backyard? No, it's hard to find a location for that. And we can really make a big difference by reducing the amount of trash that we're sending there to make it last longer. But that's definitely something that the future generation is going to have to engineer a new landfill. People in the future are going to have to do that pretty soon here. So that is a great question, and it's really important that I think that people just get creative in the future as we move forward of how can we be more sustainable, not just for consumers and our individual choices, but for further up the production of people making products. How can we make it more sustainable? But yeah, good question. Thank you. So what is recyclable? There's 4 materials right now that we are able to recycle: metal, plastic, glass, and paper. Now, metal and glass, you can recycle over and over again, doesn't lose its value. And then paper, you can recycle about 6 times. Plastic, like 1 to 3 times. And of course, some plastic you can't recycle at all. So your like candy wrappers, granola bar wrappers, those are not recyclable. And I'll go through a few things that are common misconceptions about whether they're recyclable or not. And we'll talk about where all of these materials come from. So paper coffee cups are not recyclable because they have that shiny plastic lining inside. Makes it really difficult to recycle whenever you have plastic and paper fused together. And also if it's soiled, anytime paper is soiled with the liquid, makes it no longer able to recycle.
Hey, Emily, does that mean, oh, just kidding, I totally jumped ahead of you. That's what I was just going to ask, was about pizza boxes.
Ah, yes, pizza boxes. Great question. So this is another one that people think that, they can put in the recycle bin. But if it's really greasy and soiled like this, it can't go in, it cannot be recycled. But if the top of your pizza box is clean, you can rip that part off and put that in the recycle bin. So yeah, any kind of dirty paper is not recyclable. Paper plates and tissues and napkins, those can't go in your recycle bin either, but you can compost napkins and tissues and paper towels, so they could go in a compost bin. Another common misconception is plastic film. So plastic bags, bread bags, like the outside of your, I think the ice bag, things like that, stretchy plastic. It can't go in your recycle bin at home. but it can be brought to a grocery store to be recycled. So maybe some of you have noticed this like cardboard box outside of grocery stores, like near the entrance. You can bring your plastic bags there to be recycled. And it used to be required by law that grocery stores larger than 10,000 square feet recycle plastic film, but it is no longer required by law. Some still do it, like Safeway I know still does it, but it is no longer required by law. You might notice that grocery stores give you a thicker bag now, and that's supposed to be reusable. And so that kind of is how they got out of it. The reason why you can't put plastic film in your recycling bins is because it gets stuck in the sorting machines, and it also, if it gets stuck like this, they have to go and shut down all the machines and cut it out with a box cutter, and then that plastic, because it's dirty, they're not able to recycle it. So this type of plastic, the stretchy kind of plastic film, if it's really dirty, it's not able, it has to be really clean to be recycled. That makes sense. I thought I saw another comment. If you guys have any comments or questions throughout, just feel free to grab the mic and I'll try to pay attention to that.
I can read some that have been put in the chat really quick. If
Oh, okay, yes, please.
So let's see. One of the questions was, what about those Amazon plastic envelopes everyone is getting that they say are recyclable?
So those can be brought to like the same place you would bring plastic film to be recycled. I do believe you're talking about the plastic like bubble wrap ones.
I think so.
Yeah, so I think that you can bring those to the plastic film, but I will get back to you about that because
I think can you also reuse those? You just need to like fold it over and tape them and they can be used again.
Yeah, absolutely. You can reuse them. So always good to practice, you know, the first two R's, since they kind of go in order, except rot is just as important, I think. But reduce and reuse, if you're able to reuse something and get more life out of that item before putting it back into the recycling system, that's even better.
Yeah, I agree with your comment on rot and reduce being pretty equal. Recycle actually being at the bottom of the list of the 4 R's, because recycling does take a lot of energy. There was a comment just that waste management is going to start fining people when they put garbage in the recycling container. I've been seeing some comments about that on social media lately. And then another comment that said, when I've been at the landfill, I noticed a lot of cardboard being dumped. It seems like that is one of the easier things to recycle, question mark, question mark. So what do you think about why a lot of cardboard might go into the landfill instead of being recycled?
Yeah, it's definitely possible that it is soiled and dirty, and that's why it's not able to be recycled and it ends up in the landfill. But it's also possible that it just got brought to the wrong place. You know, like I said, there's not enough effort, or there's not really enough capacity at the landfill with all of that trash coming for people to say, wait, that's recyclable, don't dump that. So unfortunately, it just happens a lot. And you know, sometimes a lot of folks also don't know that if you put some contaminated item in your recyclables, like say you have a full milk jug and you put that in your recyclables, it gets on everything, that whole load is considered contaminated and can just go to the landfill, everything that got dirty. So I think there needs to be a larger effort to reclaim these valuable resources from our waste stream, but it would take a lot of work. And I think that fining is a great way to do it. Unfortunately, I know that there's problems with that too, but I know some counties, some cities do fine if you put something, the wrong thing in the wrong bin, you'll get a fine for that. And that could be really helpful. I know there's a lot of efforts in California where we're pushing towards reducing our waste by 75% by 2025. That was SB 1387. And so there's going to be a lot of rollouts to improve the whole waste management system.
Great, thanks. We have another question or comment from Anthony, so I'm going to pass him the mic again, okay?
Yeah.
I had another question. So, what happens when it rains and in the landfill? Does the the trash get just sucked down into the earth, or what happens?
Yeah, so in the structure of a landfill, they actually are able to collect all of the juice, all of the liquid, and they kind of pump it out, and then it goes into, like, basically at our landfill, every landfill is designed a little different, but at ours it goes into like a big pond, and then it gets treated and then dealt with. I think they actually they take it somewhere else to get treated. So they drain the pond of all the water and haul it somewhere to get treated.
And those juices are called leachate, right?
Yes,
Leachate.
that includes rainwater too.
Right, and so when we have really heavy rains and really heavy rainwater, that system actually gets overloaded, and there can be spillover into our groundwater of that leachate. So that's another reason why it's really important to reduce. Number one, reduce our waste, because it's affecting the ground underneath where the landfill is, which will be there for a very long time. So that's a great question, Anthony. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. Yeah, after the campfire, and you guys know that it flooded, and so the landfill was actually really affected by that, and it flooded a lot, and it did spill over. So there, like Caitlin said, there's a huge environmental risk there of it getting into our groundwater, all that garbage juice getting into our groundwater and contaminating it. So two different items that are not recyclable, unless there's any other questions. I'll keep going.
Nope, you're good.
All right, so plastic bags. So yeah, bring those to the grocery store, reuse them. If you have like a stash of them at your house, there's lots of different uses for them. And then of course, just trying to reduce even using plastic bags and just bringing your own bag. I know Andy Keller from Chico Bag, he started Chico Bag after going to a trip to the landfill, and he saw how many plastic bags were at the landfill, and I think that was really the big inspiration for starting Chico Bag. So another item is e-waste and batteries, right? We can't put these things in our recycling bins at home, but we can bring them to e-waste recycling centers, so electronic waste recycling centers. That's really important. I actually see sometimes just people throwing like electronics in their trash, and these are valuable resources, so it's important to reclaim these and make sure that we bring them to the correct place to be recycled. Also, household hazardous waste will take your electronics as well, and the landfill takes electronics too. And then Neil wrote. You can also bring your old computers to Computers for Classrooms. This is a great nonprofit in Chico where they'll refurbish your old electronics, fix them up, and sell them to schools for a cheaper price. They're an awesome nonprofit. And then with household hazardous waste items, again, we don't want to put these potentially toxic chemicals in our landfill. We don't want to put them in our recycle bin where people will come into contact with them at the materials recovery facility. So we bring them to household hazardous waste. This is a place that's out by the airport, Marauder Street, and they are open on Saturdays and Sundays. And it's really important to make sure that these potentially harmful chemicals go to the right place and they get recycled. So used motor oil, we also have a workshop all about used motor oil for high school and post-secondary auto shop, engineering, agriculture students. That's kind of who it's geared towards. And we work with U College Automotive Department this year and last year, and they're great. And I think it's amazing how many students are like, oh, I was using my used motor oil as weed killer. It's so that those chemicals getting into our groundwater, or they kill plants and animals, and they block photosynthesis, and they just stick to everything. So this is that's a whole other conversation of being really responsible with those chemicals that we use and fluids like motor oil. So the last little piece to keep in mind with the 4 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot, is that we are also conserving natural resources when we do this. So that's the pictures I showed you in the beginning of the story of our stuff. Everything comes from the earth, right? And so whenever we practice the 4 R's, we're also conserving resources. So I kind of run through these ones. You guys feel free to shout it out or just kind of keep it in your mind for anyone watching at home. But those recyclable items, what natural resource does paper come from?
Wood.
Wood, yes. So when we recycle, we're also conserving trees. I had a kindergartner the other day that was like, paper comes from trees? What? Where does metal come from? And a lot of students know this one because they're all about this game called Minecraft these days. And so they even know it comes from rocks, it comes from ore, right? And mining for metals can be really destructive. So also really important to remember that this used to be a mountain. And so whenever we are being more conscious of our stuff and practicing the 4 R's, we're also saving the environment in this habitat for other animals. What natural resource does glass come from? Comes from sand. Sand is silica, nice. And glass is awesome, I think, because it can be recycled over and over again. And, you know, that's a whole other conversation, but in the United States, we don't recycle enough glass. And then lastly, plastic. So what natural resource does plastic come from?
Oil.
Oil, yes, exactly. So it's always important to keep in mind when we practice the 4 R's, we are conserving resources. And then the last R, reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot. Rot refers to composting. So this is what we can do with our food scraps. This is nature's way of recycling. When we create a compost bin at home, we manage and speed up the natural decomposition process, right? And then you're kind of creating a little ecosystem in your compost bin. I love composting. It's amazing how healthy it can get sometimes, and then also how stinky and out of control it can get sometimes. And you can balance it so well. You can like always bring back your compost bin with the right balance of browns, you know, your newspaper, your leaves, greens like food scraps, air and water, and then get the right bacteria and decomposers like red wiggler worms or any kind of invertebrates that decompose are really good to add. And then you're left with this great stuff called compost, which you can use to grow more food. Another way to close the loop, right? It's the circle of life. So why do we practice the 4 R's? To protect the environment, to save space in the landfills, and to conserve natural resources. And we're not only protecting the environment for ourselves, right? We're protecting the environment for all of the species, all the animals and plants, and you know, every type of animal. So every type of plant too. So yeah, any other questions that I missed? Let me just stop this. Thank you all so much for listening to the spiel from Rare. There's always so much to cover in these workshops, and I always go over time because there's just so much to say on the topic of our waste. And yeah, great point. And someone said, or reuse glass bottles. Absolutely. All right.
Anthony asked to grab the mic again.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Good question.
So is there any opportunities kids my age could help out in this association over summer?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Yeah, we would love to maybe get your contact and info and think of a way to have students be a part of the Rare program. Neil helps with the Rare program and has been kind of our Rare ambassador at his school. And yeah, it would be great if we could come to your school and do a presentation, or maybe even during the summer, if there's a group of students, we could do a presentation, you could help with that. I think that would be a great way to get involved. And then of course, we also do our cleanup every year. That's not until September, but we always encourage groups of students to get together and come to the cleanup as well.
I'm in Tokyo in Gate. So yeah, you can come by. And also I would love to work with Neil since he's my cousin.
Oh, awesome. Okay, great. Yeah, that sounds so good. We'll think of, yes, so she just put my email in the comments there. And so you can send me a message or an email, and we'll definitely get students more involved in the program. I love that idea. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. If there are no more questions for Emily, we're gonna go on to our next presenter. Yes, applause for Emily. Thank you so much.
Yes, and composting workshop in our garden in July. Thank you, Scott. We're gonna have that in July.
Yep. Well, we'll be broadcasting that date pretty soon. Awesome. Okay. We are just running slightly short on time, but we're still trucking, and I think that everything's going well. Appreciative of our presenters today. Next up, we're going to hear from Mary. Mary is with Altacal Audubon Society. Their mission is to promote the awareness, appreciation, and protection of native birds and their habitats through education, research, and environmental activities. And so at this time, I'm going to pass the mic over to Mary. Stop sharing my screen. And Mary, just whenever you're ready. I see Mary is on. Mary, if you're there and you can hear me, you can turn your camera back on and unmute yourself. All right. David, I see you're here. Maybe we can swap your spot and Mary's spot. Oop.
I'm actually up next if you want to go.
You are. I was just thinking about this 15-minute blocks.
Okay, that's great.
If you don't mind. Okay, thanks, John. And then I'll try to get in touch with Mary and see what's going on. We'll just move along with the agenda and just swap Mary's presentation with Altacal and move on to David. David's a cycling instructor here to talk about safe cycling, and cycling is an important part of our environmental action and advocacy because it gets our bodies moving and it gets our, oh, there's Mary. Well, now we're in a little bit of a pinch.
Go ahead with Mary.
Okay, well, I'll reintroduce you in a little bit, David. Mary, are you ready? Maybe not. Maybe she's having a little bit of internet issues, it looks like. She did comment, can you see or hear me? What's a virtual event if you're not going to have little internet glitches? And other speakers are actually going to come into the back office later because they're having internet issues today as well. Okay, well, let's just go ahead, David, so we don't have too much of a lag time here since we're already running behind on time. So I'm going to pass it off to you. I'm just really excited to hear what you have to say about safe cycling and what we can do to encourage healthy habits that are healthy for our bodies and the environment.
All right. Are you hearing me okay at this point?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay, good. This is, of course, like everybody, this is a new platform for me, so I'm still finding my comfort level with it. Perhaps it's useful to say a little bit of how I got started cycling. I'm a graduate of Santa Barbara High School in 1968, and I was living in Santa Barbara in 1969 in January of that year, when an offshore oil platform blew out and created an enormous oil spill that fouled beaches for miles and miles of the California coastline. And that, among other things, that event was the inspiration for the first Earth Day. It was also the inspiration for me in a sort of the kind of dramatic gesture that 18-year-olds like to make, to take my car to a junkyard and tell them I wanted it crushed and buy a bicycle. Because I didn't want to be contributing to the oil economy. I have not, of course, remained car-free since then. In fact, I got into bicycle racing, which required a lot of car travel to get to races. But I continue to use a bicycle for most of my daily transportation for more than 50 years. And I sort of have this dream, you might say, of what could be possible in the world of what bicycling could be like for people in let me see, I'm having to do just a little bit of technical stuff here, and to get me into the video that I want. But and what we're going to see here is a scene from a city that is very much bigger than our city here in Chico. So it's a very different view. It's a city about 10 times larger than Chico, but it does give you some sense of how different transportation could be in a world in which we don't treat the car as primary, but treat people as primary in terms of our transportation. And so I'm just going to show you, I'm going to run this for about 2 minutes, and or maybe a little less, just to give you kind of an idea. And it's just kind of fun to see. Okay, so that's kind of that's an extreme example, you might say, a wonderful example, I think, of what a city can look like. And this is a very big city. This is a city of about 1.3 million people, Utrecht. I had the good fortune a few years ago, now I guess about 15 years ago now, we spent 3 weeks cycling in the Netherlands, my wife and I, with our tandem bicycle. And it is just extraordinary what a difference it makes in a community. It's obviously, we know far less oil consumption, safer streets for people and all of those kinds of things. But just as much as that is the sense of community that is created when people ride their bicycles. And when you get people out of cars and onto bicycles or on foot, they interact together in completely different ways. I would also add that I think we might have seen I don't remember if it was in this video, I actually think it was in a different one I was looking at, but you also, it works very well for a wide variety of people. A lot of those same accommodations that make things safer for people on bicycles also can make the world safer and more comfortable for many people with disabilities and things like that too. So that's sort of a dream. Is a city in which we have that kind of bicycling infrastructure, but that's a long ways away here in America. It's important to know that that did not just occur organically in the Netherlands. It was the result of political activism and a conscious decision to make that change. In the years after World War II, as people got into cars, as people became richer, as Europe recovered from the war and people got into cars and began to drive more, the Dutch found their cities were being overcrowded by cars. They were finding large numbers of people, and especially children, being killed in collisions between cars and pedestrians. And they fought back against that, and it was a conscious political campaign to create cities that were designed for people and not just designed for the free movement of cars. So we're a long ways away from having that. But what I view as kind of an intermediate step to getting there is to get more people being comfortable on bicycles on the streets that we do have. And the reality is that's possible to do also. I went through a program a little over a year ago, I guess about a year and a half ago now. I went through a program to become what's called a league cycling instructor, certified by the League of American Bicycling to teach safe cycling. And this was facilitated by a joint program of the Butte County Health Department and Chico Cycling Club. And that those two entities are working together to create, we've now trained a number of other cycling instructors in this community. We have a class of instructors that are in the process of being trained right now. And we're working on getting more people. Working on getting more people trained and working on setting up more classes. We have an active program going on right now of bike rodeos in schools, in which we're teaching young people safe cycling, and we want to get out more into the larger community. So we don't look out for opportunities to do that. I often have heard people say, if people just ride on the street, I can possibly do that. I can tell you that it is possible to ride on the street with people if you have the skills to know how to do it. I know it pretty much as you know that's very safe. 2 weeks ago, I started here a little high school I did. I finished the next year. My riding into high school in Los Angeles State. I rode across the road into Los Angeles and Northwest and Florida. I rode across the part of Los Angeles because I'm fairly comfortable doing that. And so it's perfectly possible to do these things that you can perfectly learn the skills. If you look online, you can go to bicycle. There's lots of information about this cycling online. Be on the lookout of learning to offer a good best practice in the next year or so. But it even matters that learning to conscious skills, learning to technique, the ways to work behavior on the road and touch the behavior of other surroundings, and this is much safer by just learning simple things like the way the species like in the lane and how to operate the bicycle safely. So with that, I think I'm going to just sort of stop there. This is relatively short. and if you will be I would be happy to take that. All right. So I think
Let's see.
I'm basically done.
Oh, okay. That sounds great. What were the two? Was Chico, Velo, and somebody else? It was a partnership.
The Butte County Health Department, which
Butte
has,
County.
part of the health department's mandate is trauma reduction. That's part of public health is reducing trauma from accidents and motor vehicle accidents and things like that. So, for example, they have a program to promote child seats in cars and things like that. And this is just one more part of that trauma reduction kind of thing.
Wonderful. I saw on that video the little windshields and the little baby sitting in front of the parents. And I want that.
Yeah. I saw in the Netherlands, I saw bikes with 3 child seats on them. That wasn't rare.
That's the equivalent of the minivan.
Yes, that's a Dutch minivan.
It was wonderful, very inspiring. Thank you for sharing that. That video spoke volumes. Yeah, it was really great. That's a big city too. Yeah, I went to school at UC Davis, and the city of Davis really has it figured out on a small scale. I mean, we had bike lights. There's traffic lights at intersections that are specific for bikes. They even have a little bike symbol, and the paths for the intersections are very clearly marked for bicyclists, and it's a very cycle-friendly community, and people even commute from Davis to Sacramento. I mean, there's a whole route to get into the city from Davis. And I at the transportation forum, I kind of made a gentle request to our county and city officials to to maybe take into consideration what Davis has going on, and it's another college town that's just down the road, to try to incorporate some more of that infrastructure for cycling in Chico to make it a safer bicycle community for us. So thanks for sharing, David. Are there any other questions out there at this time for David? Great. All right. So
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Applause for you. I'm going to use the little emoji. So we are just running a few minutes behind for various reasons. Primarily my fault. I started this a little slow at the beginning. But I think that we will have John up next to present, just to keep with the timing of things. And so I'm going to introduce John really quick, even though I don't necessarily need to. John All is with, I always mess it up.
Chico State Ecological Reserves. Yeah, that's a mouthful.
I have it on my slide. I was just trying to be faster and just not need to use my slide. But
there you go.
Yeah, okay. It's reserves because there's actually multiple preserves, right? There's the Butte Creek and there's the Big Chico Creek. Okay, and so it's Chico State Ecological Reserves run by Chico State Enterprises, which was previously the Research Foundation, correct?
That's right.
All right. Good. All right. Well, being here with us, John, I've been bragging about this presentation to all my friends because these are some of my favorite topics. I used to be in fisheries. I was a fisheries technician for the Forest Service in another lifetime. And for my master's degree, I studied pre and post wildfire effects on different managed lands, public and private timberlands. And so fire and fish are both something that I'm very passionate about. So when you want to present about this, I'm like, yes, I'm so excited. So I'm going to stop talking now and let you get going.
Right. Well, very hot topic, no pun intended, definitely. And very important topics, and also pertinent to the endangered species theme of the Faire. I know it was mentioned earlier that that can be a really negative thing, but we've had some success stories here in Butte Creek Canyon. So I want to talk about the successes of the Endangered Species Act here, actually. And my computer is running hot. This is a lot of stress on it. It shut down once, so hopefully it doesn't happen again. So I'm going to share my PowerPoint here. But yeah, I am John. I'm the education coordinator. So I run a K-12 field trip program with the ecological reserves, and we also facilitate field trips with the university, Cedar University, when students are coming out for their labs and their research, and also the professors who are doing research on the reserves also. So we are private reserves, but open to the public. Our purpose is for education and research. And I'm looking for my screen. Might have to enter full screen to share. It's looking kind of funny here. Let's see. Yeah, that looks terrible. Sorry about that.
John, when you click share your screen, you actually have options. You can select a specific tab. There's like 3 options at the top when you click share screen.
Okay. Here we are. There we go. So hopefully is that big enough? It looks a little small online. Does it help if I make it bigger? It looks like it's becoming bigger as I stretch it.
And if you want to go full screen with it, I can let you know on my if you have questions.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, so we are the Chico State Ecological Reserves, where education meets the land is our motto. Right there we have a picture of a steer and meat on some honey mushrooms. And one of our poster animals for the reserves. Of course, they're very poisonous, and of course, you guys know the difference between poisonous and venomous. So if you bite something and you die, you're venomous, and if something eats you and it dies, you're poisonous. So definitely do not eat these newts. But the honey mushrooms are okay to eat. You can eat those. As long as you know that they're honey mushrooms, of course. So we have 2 ecological reserves. We have the big Chico Creek Ecological Reserve. I don't know, can you see my cursor? Anyway, on the other side of Bidwell Park, up north there is the big Chico Creek Ecological Reserve. So that's our main one. That's about 4,000 acres there. And we also have the Butte Creek Ecological Preserve down here on Butte Creek. And that's the one I'm mainly going to be talking about, where we have the big salmon run and the history of fire, recent history of fire there. That's interesting. So there's a cool fish on fire there. So this is a map of the Butte Creek Ecological Preserve here. It has been closed since the campfire to the public. It is a big wild place. The reserves both are. We have mountain lions there. This is from these pictures are from our adopted acre cameras that are spread along around the big Chico Creek Ecological Reserve. We have bears there. Take baths in the reserves trough there. Of course, we have deer. We have wild turkeys. So it's a big wild place. We don't get to see a lot of those things on our field trips, but in the fall, there is one great event that we have here, and we do get to see the salmon spawning right on our reserve there. So this is where we do our educational program, Fish and Fire. It's a very dynamic floodplain. This is before 2017, so this is a Google Earth aerial view here. So if you look back at the map, back there, you can see that there. And so this is it was one channel just going through here, but after 2017, we got some this is a dynamic floodplain. So we got some big water coming through here, and they were actually going to build some houses here at one time. So there would have been houses throughout what is now the Chico Creek Ecological Preserve, and interested community members, activists got together and stopped that housing community, and eventually led to this becoming preserved. So we have active people to thank for that. So in 2017, we got a big flow of about 17,000 cubic feet per second through here, and this was all flooded through here. So not a good place to have a house. And the stream was graded into 4 channels here, which most of which are still containing water. So we can see salmon spawning right in here. It's creating good salmon habitat for the young salmon too. All these little back channels are things that places that the young can be safe from predators and get big enough to fuel their trip down to the ocean, where they'll spend most of their lives, and then come back to the spawn. So number one cause of animals becoming extinct or endangered. Well, a lot of people think it's hunting, not hunting. A lot of people think it's predators, maybe. No, not that. Introduced species certainly does have an effect on that, but really the number one reason for animals becoming endangered is habitat loss. We really just need a good quality place where animals have the kind of food and shelter and space that they need to survive. So I think I can skip a few of these, but we have western pond turtles, which are a species of special concern, versus introduced red-eared sliders, which have become a problem, crowding them out. Other places, we have the foothill yellow-legged frog, which is being listed on the Endangered Species Act, and bullfrogs are an invasive species, something that was introduced for food and then escaped, and has been taking over the habitat of the yellow-legged frogs. Actually even eating the yellow-legged frogs. They'll eat anything they can get into their big fat mouths. So big problem in a lot of areas, especially farther downstream you get into the valley.
Well,
So what I want to talk about? Yeah.
With the yellow-legged frogs, are those an indicator species for our stream health?
Yes. So all of these are, but yeah, particularly amphibians, frogs. They're amphibians, so they have very thin skin, so it's permeable. So as well as breathing through their skin, air passes through their skin, water passes through their skin. Anything that's in the air and the water and the environment, they're particularly sensitive to. So they are typically, one of the first to go. So in an ecosystem, and we're seeing that all over the world. Problems with the amphibians, and telling us that there is something wrong in the environment.
Thank you. And those bullfrogs, they eat fish eggs and things too, right? So
they eat everything. Yeah.
They pretty much decimate the balance of our ecosystems.
Yeah. Yeah. We have one pond that is just downstream from the Butte Creek Ecological Preserve, and they've been doing some bullfrog removal there. And just that little pond, which Mary knows, they've taken 700 bullfrogs out of. So yeah, they can really completely take over and replace the ecosystem that's there, that's been functioning, for thousands of years. The balance of the animals and the plants is totally disrupted by some of these invaders.
Thank you.
So I'm going to show you a little short 2-minute video that we made on the Butte Creek Run, and this is from footage by Alan Hawthorne of the Friends of Butte Creek, who has an underwater he's got an underwater camera at his house up high in the canyon where these guys are right now, and they'll spend the whole summer there before they come down to. Can you all see that?
No, I can't see anything. It looks like your screen share stopped.
I'm sorry, so you can't see the video?
Correct. I'm not seeing it. I don't know about anybody else.
So you're not seeing the video.
Do you have
So
a
still not seeing the video?
Yeah, no. Do you have a share option?
Yeah, it's on the share tab.
Maybe
Yeah, it's
turn
on
it
the
off
share
and turn
tab.
it back
I'm
on
using.
again.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, sorry. I'm not a pro at this.
No, that's the first thing we want to get sure. Not working. Nothing.
Nothing still. Are you using the video share feature?
Yeah.
I did test out yesterday. I was able to share my screen and show a YouTube video. Are you?
Yeah, it was working the other day. Yeah, let me.
So if you have that video open just in another tab, you could try to just share that tab. I got it to work yesterday.
Okay.
So
I will. I don't have it open, but I'll get it open real quick here.
Sorry for the delay. I had to step away to have another presenter this came to the office to use the computer here.
You know what? I think I will just skip that, but it is on our YouTube channel, and I'll have that at the end of the presentation, so you can go watch that. It's just 2 minutes of basically some of the same stuff that I'm talking about here, and you'll you can see some of Alan's footage, which is pretty spectacular. Yeah, the spring run salmon are an endangered species. They are threatened under the Endangered Species Act. It's the Central Valley spring run Chinook salmon, so there are multiple runs of salmon, and this one is very special because it comes up right about now. It comes up in like April. It's pretty spectacular just lately seeing all of these fish come up. This looks like it's going to be a record year for the salmon, so that's pretty amazing that they're making such a comeback, and we're seeing historic highs of the salmon, and just to be down there at Butte Creek and see all those salmon going by is something I've never seen the whole time. But every year I've seen them spawning. That's typically the time when you can really get good views of them. But as far as the migration, it's really something to see here. So these are amazing fish. They can get up to 85 pounds. They can be 4 feet long, just like this guy in the picture there. And a huge community of animals depend on these salmon. So everybody from bears to bald eagles to raccoons and ocean critters like orcas and seals. And of course, we depend on the salmon too, and even trees. So the bear eats the fish, and bear goes off into the woods, do bears do in the woods, and fertilizes the trees. So scientists have actually done studies where they've looked at the nutrients in trees and found that they come from salmon. So very important part and long-ranging effects of the salmon and the salmon migration, because they're born here in the creek. They migrate out to the ocean, spend 3 to 5 years out there, and gather that energy from the ocean, and then bring that energy upstream, which is kind of the reverse of what usually happens in nature. Everything gets washed downstream, but the salmon bring up all of this energy and all of these nutrients up the stream here. So, so why are these fish endangered? Well, there's the historical spring run range. So all of these creeks here used to have spring runs of salmon, and California was completely replumbed for flooding and flood control for agriculture. So as a result of this damming and water diversions, we have very little salmon habitat anymore for these spring run salmon that go so far up into these little creeks and have to spend the summer there before they come down lower and spawn in the fall. So they come from the ocean, right about now, or even in April, and they spend 6 months in the creek without eating. So they're just preserving their energy, just waiting for that, for October, when they can spawn. So it's a very strange life cycle there, but it's been successful for them for thousands of years. It's worked for them. Of course, things are changing. Habitat is the number one thing. Climate change, of course. They need cold water. They need enough water where they can survive through the summer here. And you probably noticed the creeks dry up a lot in the summer. So when the water gets low, they're more susceptible to diseases, funguses grow on them, and they're less likely to survive into the fall when they spawn. So we have 4 creeks here that are the main spring run salmon tributaries: Middle, Deer, Chico, and Butte. And Butte is by far the biggest run. It was dismally low in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. You can see here it was below, it was in the hundreds. Maybe as far as these fish concerned, maybe some years a little bit more than that. So these are some of the things and they were declared an endangered species in the late 90s. So these are some of the things we did to improve their chances, improve the habitat here. We made fish ladders, just like this one up here. So a fish ladder that can go around the dam. A lot of dams, if you've been to 1 mile, you've seen a fish ladder right there at the dam. Maybe you've seen fish jumping up there. We do have a few salmon that make it up Big Chico Creek every year usually. There's a broken fish ladder in Upper Bidwell Park. So unfortunately, they're not able to get up to the reserve a lot of years where they need to be to survive the summer where the cold deep water is. But on Butte Creek, by making some of these ladders around dams, and by removing some of the dams that we didn't need, screening some of the pipes that were sucking the water out for ag use, so the fish didn't get sucked in through these screens, these irrigation pumps, and just getting more water for the fish. So buying water rights and some water diversions and fishing regulation changes, of course. Had to do that to take some of the pressure off of the population in certain years. You don't have a lot of fish. There's less fishing allowed, but really what we've done at the Butte Creek Ecological Reserve is restore and protect that key habitat for Chinook salmon, where they're holding, spending the summer, where they're spawning, and where the young are getting big enough so that they're able to survive that trip out to the ocean. And so we've got Butte Creek, and we have some fish and wildlife, California Fish and Wildlife parcels that are downstream there. So this is kind of a complicated map here, but it shows some of the water manipulations. We've got all of these dams on here. We've got power stations here, so the water's being diverted for power. Even though this one's not working right now, these reservoirs are still in place here, and we get import water from the Feather River here into DeSable, and then from DeSable it goes into Butte Creek, so that we're able to keep the water cold enough and keep the water level high enough for the salmon so that they are able to survive in summer and spawn in the fall. And then downstream, here are some of the modifications that have been made. The salmon are using rice fields in the off season, the rice is not great for the rearing grounds, so that they can grow and get fat before they make it out to the ocean. So there's a lot of food in these flooded rice fields, bugs, invertebrates, and actually a lot more than in some of the traditional wetlands. So their rice fields are very productive. So it's a good partnership between rice farmers who are flooding their fields for the salmon and conservationists. So you can see by this chart that it's been very successful. All these partnerships and people getting together to save our endangered species. And so where we had numbers in the hundreds, down here in the 70s through the 90s, now we have tens of thousands, up to 20,000, maybe 20,000, maybe we'll hit 20,000 this year. So although that's a lot smaller than what they have in the hatchery system, these are wild fish. So this is a wild population, and with that genetic resource that they have, the genetic profiles of wild fish, there's more diversity there. They're able to react to changes in the environment. So we're seeing climate change, we're seeing new diseases. So all of these things are things that if you have more genetic diversity, you are better able to respond to that. So, of course, the reserve was also burned over in the Camp Fire, and that was very destructive for a lot of places. But it is sad to kind of see that at first at the BSEP. But I think really now, looking at it, we can see the resilience of the fire-adapted landscape. In fact, we went in to fly a drone to get this picture, and we couldn't do it for a few weeks. And after the rains, it's already turning green. So we didn't even get a picture of the blackened landscape. It turned green that fast. And we got a lot of rain that year. It really was spectacular. So we had great explosions of wildflowers. We had poppies everywhere. And most of these shrubs and trees and everything that grows here is fire adapted. It's had fires go through for thousands of years, and they are fire adapted. So we've got things like this oak tree here, this live oak, which is a stump sprouter. The tree was completely burned to the ground, but from the stump, it's sprouting vigorously here. Same thing with this western redbud. The manzanitas actually have seeds that you actually need fire to scarify them so that they will grow. They won't sprout without fire. So no fire, no new manzanitas. Deer grass responds very nicely to fire. So you burn off all the old dying growth, and you get really, really lush growth there. And seeing this was really extraordinary. Just to, I mean, I've learned all this stuff. I've read about it, but actually go there and see this process happening over the past couple of years has been extraordinary. Milkweed is another one. Of course, Native Americans burned these also to stimulate the resources and increase the biodiversity. Of course, this is the host for the monarch butterfly here. Elderberry also has responded very vigorously to the fire. It has sprouted up all over the place, and the elderberry, you may know, is the host for another endangered species that's not maybe quite as much of a charismatic megafauna as the salmon or bald eagle, but this is the valley elderberry longhorn beetle, and they spend most of their lives inside the elderberry stalks. So and that's the only place that their larvae will be. So that's their sole larval host, and without the elderberry, we wouldn't have these valley elderberry longhorn beetles. So of course we don't like to see these catastrophic wildfires, but low intensity fires can actually be a healthy part of the ecosystem. So we actually do prescribed burns on our reserve, which actually reduces the chance of having a big catastrophic wildfire because we're burning off the fuels that are accumulating and also stimulating the plant growth. And animals like the beaver back there that were there before the fire are back. Well, they never left. They were still there. And the birds are definitely were coming back right after the fire also. But deer, turkey, all of those guys, all to call and Mary are doing some bird surveys over there. So we're getting more data on just how the fire affected the bird population. Of course, big mature trees were killed, but it definitely is coming back, and it's amazing to see the kind of resilience that we're seeing there. So I'm doing field trips there and for schools, and we have field trip series coming up in the fall when the salmon will be spawning, and we do fun things like aquatic invertebrate studies where we get in the creek and find some of the insects that the salmon are depending on and see things that maybe you've never seen before. So our field trips are free, and we even have bus transportation for schools. So contact us about field trips if you are connected with a school or know somebody who's teaching. Have kids, talk to your teacher about that. So you can like us on Facebook at Chico Creek Ecological Reserve, or on Instagram, CSUC Reserves. On YouTube, we're CSU Chico Ecological Reserves, and all this stuff you can find through our website, csuchico.edu/BCCER, or just search BCCER is maybe the easiest way to find all of that stuff. And of course, you can support us by adopting an acre. It's giving a yearly donation to support all of our programs. And you can learn about that on our website as well. So thank you all very much. And I have a question already, Paige.
Sorry, I jumped
All right, no problem.
I just wanted to know, did you talk about, have you seen the run this right now that's of salmon? Did you talk about seeing them? I might have walked out of the room.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I just mentioned that. That it's, I've never seen this. I mean, it's historic, as far as we've been keeping track. I'm sure the Native Americans have seen much bigger runs. It must have been in the millions at some time. But right now, I've never seen upstream migration. Typically, you can see them when they're spawning because they're just hanging out, but there's so many fish going by that, I was able to go out a number of times and just count hundreds just swimming upstream, which is pretty extraordinary. Usually they come up with the rains, so the water gets muddy and you can't see them. And I've heard they migrate at night, but this time, they're just all over the place, and it seemed like it for a while. So there are still probably some places you can go, but they've made made it, I think, up into the higher pools right now. So if you go on Facebook, the Facebook page of the Friends of Bidwell, Friends of Butte Creek, he has Alan Harthorne has posted some videos and pictures of what he's got up there in his holding hole up there, some of the salmon holes up there, and just hundreds of fish, and he's circling around, and it's really quite a sight. So yeah, it's very, very optimistic. And of course, it all depends on enough water and the temperatures, maintaining, staying cold enough so that they'll be able to survive into the fall.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
There's a few questions from in the chat. A lot of them are mine, but we don't know.
Okay.
But Emily did ask, do you know why the salmon run this spring is so big? And I know you touched on it, but just specifically for this spring, because it's usually a few years of a lag time, right?
Yep, so 3 to 5 years. I guess my best guess would be that the flood. We had all that water that I mentioned in 2017. So that was a really good water year. So maybe that's these fish, because they had so much water that year. There was a super bloom all over the state that year. We got some very high flows through there. So that's one guess. There's so many things that it could be. I can't really pin it, but yeah.
Thank you. That makes sense. Yeah, maybe those were the fish from the big water year that coming back. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty amazing to see in Butte Creek right now. Go check it out.
So my first question was just more or less about opportunities for habitat restoration projects. Are there any in the works or underway, or any ways that we can get involved, maybe help with some tree or willow planting or anything along those lines?
Yeah, so, since COVID, we really haven't been doing much. The university's we follow, we're not technically a university, we're pretty much follow the university's lead on everything, and they've been very conservative, acting out of an abundance of caution. So we haven't done any public programs. But hopefully in the fall, and that is the time to do, more of the restoration projects when it's actually raining. I know everybody wants to go out in spring and, do stuff, but if you plant anything at the beach right now, it's going to die unless you water it. You have to go back and water it every week or more. So, the time for the restoration projects is really in the fall. And we will be doing some of that with the classrooms. So.
Awesome. I love seeing students doing stewardship. Definitely a lot of that going on up in Plumas County over the last 10 years with wildfire restoration on streams and just in the forest. So if you ever I don't know if you know who Rob Wade is, but he's
sure.
Yeah, so Rob's really involved with that Plumas to Pacific and outdoor education up there in Plumas Unified School District. And I only mention that because they for a long time now, they had some really great funding to integrate student stewardship in wildfire restoration, both in streets. Chester has a fish hatchery, and just integrating all of those things up there too. And I'm from Chester, which is why I'm also here. Like that's why I'm really passionate about those topics. I did mention, and I don't think I'm wrong, but I always just put the question there, like, great, hatchery fish they're modified so that they cannot spawn in the wild. Isn't that correct?
No,
not true.
Really. They actually spawn quite a bit under the fish hatchery. They get so many, they don't, they cut them off at a certain point.
Okay. Maybe I'm looking this crow. There are triploid fish that come out of hatchery systems, so that they specifically don't breed in the wild. But maybe that's not. Maybe it's a trout thing and not salmon specifically.
I've not heard of that. Yeah, that would be a good question. I'll have to let you know about that.
Now I want to look into it. And then I just give a shout out to TEK Chico who do workshops about our native plant species. That a lot of these are fire adapted because we do live in an ecosystem that's supposed to see regular low intensity fire intervals. And that's why there are those native plants that do recover well from the fires, especially if they're lower intensity than fires. So that was a comment, not a question. So thanks for sharing that, John. Are there any other questions from the floor for John before we go to our next presentation?
I guess somebody's asking about a poster.
Oh, that was me too.
I'm not sure what that is, but you can email me about that. I guess.
Yeah, I'll email you about that.
Most of these stuff,
Yeah.
most of these pictures I got online. Some of them from Clint Garman. Wanted to give him some credit too. He's studied the fish for 20 years.
I think that was one of the ones that I liked a lot. All right, well, thank you so much for your presentation, and we're going to reach out to both reserves and maybe look into doing some projects with you in the future.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Up next, we have Mary with Altacal Audubon Society here to talk about our bird species and habitats in the region. And I'm really excited to have Mary here. Mary, it's good to see you. I'm going to mute myself and turn off my video and let you take it away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mary Machowski, and I'm the Executive Director for Altacal Audubon Society, which is the local chapter of the National Audubon Society. Welcome to the Endangered Species Fair. Today, I thought I would talk about the threatened and endangered species of birds in inland Northern California, which include the species listed here. I'll talk about each of these species in more detail throughout the presentation. These birds are protected by several laws, first and foremost being the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, which is one of the oldest wildlife protection laws on the books and is one of National Audubon Society's first major victories. This law has saved millions, if not billions, of birds. In 2017, the Trump administration attempted to weaken the Migratory Bird Treaty Act by changing the original intent of the law by stating that incidental take was no longer to be considered a violation of the law. Despite the new interpretation of this law being struck down by a federal court, this change went into effect in early January of 2021. However, the first day in office, Biden issued an executive order declaring that the changes would need to go another review process. So it's on hold at the moment. These birds are also protected by the 1973 Endangered Species Act. And most recently, California passed the Migratory Bird Protection Act in 2018 to enable birds of California to be protected from incidental take, even if the Trump changes were put in place. The bald eagle became endangered due to DDT, which made the eggshells very thin and susceptible to breaking before the eggs would hatch. Although DDT was banned in 1972, it breaks down to a compound called DDE, which can still be found in our environment today. The bald eagle is a success story and was downlisted to threatened in 1995 and delisted in 2007. However, it's still listed as state threatened in California. Bald eagles are also protected by the Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act of 1940. The bank swallow was listed as threatened in California in 1989. One of the main problems facing bank swallows is declining habitat due to rip-wrapping the banks of rivers and major streams. This involves placing large rock along the banks to prevent erosion. However, bank swallows like to nest in sandy banks along rivers and streams. In California, the Nature Conservancy, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and other organizations, as well as landowners, are trying to mitigate by buying land along the Sacramento River and attempting to create places where the river can meander naturally. This could help increase nesting areas for the bank swallows. The black gray owl is a very secretive marsh bird and is pretty uncommon in Butte County. You're more likely to hear them rather than see them. While I've heard quite a few black gray owls, I've never actually seen one in person, even when they sounded like they were only about 10 feet away from me. In my opinion, they might qualify as a burb, which is usually described as a cute or roundish looking bird. The greater sandhill crane is one of the oldest living bird species on Earth, having existed in their present form for about 2.5 million years. They have a very primitive call, which you can hear in the Central Valley while they are wintering here. You can find them foraging in the rice field, especially around Llano Seco, and it is fun to watch their courting dances. The great gray owl is extremely uncommon in Northern California. However, I personally know a couple of people who have actually heard and seen them in Butte County, but that was back in the mid-1990s. They are the largest owl we have in California, and there is a healthy population in and around Yosemite. The northern spotted owl is listed as threatened by the state of California and federally. Their range in California is mostly in the Cascade Range, north, and then over to the coast and down towards Marin. The California spotted owl is the owl we have in Butte, Yuba, and Plumas counties and has not been listed under either the state or federal Endangered Species Acts. These owls are threatened by habitat loss through timber harvest and forest fires, especially recently. They are more recently being pushed out of their territories by the larger and more opportunistic barred owl. They are also being affected by illegal pesticide use on marijuana plantations on our national forests. I'm a little biased, but the spotted owl is one of my favorite birds. The peregrine falcon is another success story after being protected under the Endangered Species Act. They have recovered after DDT was banned, and they were delisted in 1999. They are still fully protected in California. The Swainson's hawk is a state threatened bird and seems to be increasing in the northern Central Valley. You can see hundreds of these hawks traveling together in migration as they fly to South America in the fall or as they are returning in the spring. The dark morph of the Swainson's hawk is more common in the nesting birds of our region. They have a very diagnostic pattern on their underwings, which you can see on flight, and is very white at the front edge of the wings underneath and very dark on the trailing edge of the wings. The southwestern willow flycatcher is the one that's listed, but we still survey for willow flycatchers in the montane meadows of the Sierra Nevadas. They are not part of the southwestern subspecies. However, we are monitoring their numbers. They belong to a group of birds called the Empidanax flycatchers, which can be notoriously hard to identify unless you hear them sing. The yellow-billed cuckoo is another secretive bird that lives in riparian areas. The Nature Conservancy and river partners, along with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, other organizations and agencies, are purchasing lands along the Sacramento River to help restore riparian vegetation and to allow the river to meander a little more naturally. The tricolored blackbird was only listed as state threatened in 2019. These birds have been in decline for decades, mostly because of loss of habitat. They nest in colonies, which can be dozens, hundreds, thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of birds. Since they have had such a loss of habitat, They now will sometimes nest in farm fields, and an entire colony can be wiped out during harvest. This video, which I'm not going to try and play here, you can see the link, shows a short, disturbing video of a colony of tricolored blackbirds being destroyed by a combine harvester during harvest of the crop. This can wipe out an entire colony very quickly. A couple of things we can do to help the tricolored blackbirds include the silage buyout program, which allows agencies and organizations such as Audubon to purchase crops from the farmers to protect a colony. Another effective program is the harvest delay program, which is when agencies or organizations can work with farmers to delay harvesting their crops until the young have fledged. Another way is to help support habitat preservation and creation. These three programs can really help the tricolored blackbird populations. So if you are looking for a way to help birds with your wallet or your checkbook, please support Audubon California or other organizations that work to save colonies with the silage buyout program. Another important way you can help birds is to call your representative and ask that he or she support HR 5552, the Migratory Bird Protection Act. This act would define what incidental take means and make it unlawful. It is a law that will help support the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. AltaCal Audubon's mission is to promote the awareness, appreciation, and protection of native birds and their habitats through education, research, and environmental activities. And this is a list of AltaCal's board of directors and major volunteers. Email any questions to me at director@altacal.org. Thank you.
Okay, hopefully you guys can all hear me. Please let me know if you can't at any point. But my name is Gianna Anselmo, and today I am representing the Environmental Council and the Urban Forest Program. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the program, about our urban forest and the benefits they provide, as well as the connection to endangered species. A little bit of background about myself. I am a student at Chico State, soon to be graduating. I'll be receiving my Bachelor of Arts in Communication Studies with a minor in Environmental Science. And I first became an intern for BEC in September 2020 and have been an intern ever since as the Urban Forest Outreach Coordinator. So I'll talk a little bit about what that means. So this is how the Urban Forest Program works and my role within it. So in my role, my job is to recruit volunteers who are interested in tree planting. I also am responsible for recruiting eligible residents who are interested in receiving a free tree. I'll talk a little bit about what eligible means later on, but just to highlight that this is a free program for residents who are interested in receiving a free tree and have a tree planted for them. And so what BEC does is that we host semi-annual tree planting events. We had one on March. Those are from the pictures on the left. Great day in March where we planted 30 trees with over 30 volunteers. And our next event is November 13th. So to speak a little bit about what eligible residents mean, unfortunately not everyone is eligible to receive a free tree. And this is because this project aims to address climate justice. And if you're familiar with that term, in short, justice is that people are disproportionately affected by climate change based on their demographic. And we have found here in Chico is that lower income areas tend to have less trees. And this means less shade coverage and are more susceptible to high energy bills and heat-related illnesses. So we really are trying to focus our areas in locations that don't have a lot of shade. However, if you're not eligible now, don't worry. That doesn't mean you can't receive a free tree in the future. We are hoping to extend this program and get some more funding to make this available for more people. One of the tools that we use to determine who is eligible is a system called Tree Keeper. And this is actually open to the public. So if you're interested, you can always look into this. And how it works is it identifies where all of the urban trees are in Chico, as well as areas where there aren't any trees. And so here is a brief outline of the area that we are focusing on. However, all of these little orange dots represent a vacant site. And so that means that each orange dot is suitable for a tree to be planted. Again, these are going to be areas in our urban area of Chico, downtown, as well as people's front yards that are going to be in Bidwell Park, per se. And so there are about 8,000 vacant sites in Chico. And the goal is to fill as many of the vacant sites as possible with some trees. BEC is not doing this alone. We are in a partnership with the City of Chico, and more specifically, the City of Chico Urban Forester, Richie Banlett, who is featured in the photo at the bottom left of me, Richie, and Caitlin. And this is a CAL FIRE grant-funded project. The City of Chico received a grant in 2019, and the grant works towards enhancing our urban forest health. And one of the goals is to plant 700 trees by 2022. And as of today, we already have 530 trees in the ground in our urban forest. And we're hoping to actually surpass our goals and exceed the 700 mark, and hopefully we'll plant 1,000 trees. So I want to talk a little bit about planting trees, and why our urban forest is so important and connected to some of the endangered species. So one of the benefits that trees provide is habitat for wildlife. Trees provide habitat for wildlife that wouldn't be there otherwise. We give them, or trees give them shelter, food, resources, and if this really helps increase the resilience for endangered species who rely on the tree's habitat. So although it can be a little bit of a nuisance for acorns or nuts or berries to be falling on the ground from trees, there are species out there who really rely on these resources and rely on the benefits that trees provide. A healthy urban forest also encourages biodiversity. Again, just increasing the range of species that we have here in Chico and making sure that we are providing them a home and resources that they can rely on. We are also connecting wildlife and urban life when we are planting trees in urban areas. There isn't that separation anymore of a city and then a forest. We're trying to really combine those two so that trees can give benefits to the community and people living in urban areas, as well as bringing animals into urban areas and not creating boundaries for them. This contributes to ecosystem functionality and efficiency as everything's all working together and everything's interconnected. And so in planting a lot of trees, we really are trying to increase the resilience for some of these species and giving benefits to the community and environment. Continuing on, and some benefits of a healthy urban forest. One of the main benefits that I think we often take for granted is shade. Strategically placing trees can really help decrease the temperature where you're standing under, can even cool the air by 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. This can also help lower energy costs spent on air conditioning, as well as reducing the risk of heat-related illness. And as we know, our climate is getting hotter and drier, and so shade is going to be very important in the hotter temperatures ahead. Trees also filter pollutants. There are millions of tiny little particles of pollutants floating around in our air. that can actually damage our lung and our breathing abilities. So trees are responsible for filtering those pollutants and giving us some cleaner air to breathe. Trees also regulate flood control and water quality. They're able to absorb water in their roots, the excess water, so that we aren't going to deal with flooding as much because trees are taking in the water. And this also helps with water quality as trees absorb the poorer water quality. Another benefit that trees often provide is carbon sequestration, the process of absorbing carbon dioxide and giving us oxygen. One tree can absorb up to 150 kilograms of CO2 per year. Chico has actually about 35,000 trees, and that means that our urban forest is absorbing about 5,787 tons of carbon every year. And although this is a great, huge, big number, I also just want you guys to keep in mind that this isn't enough, to keep our climate where we want it to be. We're going to have to continually plant trees, take care of our urban forest, so that carbon sequestration process can continue. Another benefit that I think is really interesting is mental and physical health benefits. There's been studies showing that areas with more greenery and more vibrant help people's mental health, help people stay positive and happy, and that often translates into physical health. People feel inclined to go on a run or go on a bike ride or go enjoy nature, and I think that's one of the great benefits that urban trees provide. So moving on, I wanted to show you guys a little bit of how we plant our trees and the process of doing this. And so I actually have a video tutorial for you guys to watch of two of our volunteers. We actually have weekly volunteers who come and help us every Wednesday to plant trees. And so I'm going to switch this over and you guys can watch this video. Hopefully everyone can see my screen, and hopefully if there's sound or no sound, let me know.
Looks good.
To demonstrate how to properly plant a tree.
You will need the following tools: shovel, garden cloth, tarp, gardening hose, yardstick, box cutter, hammer, and 2 nails. You will also need your tree, wooden tree stakes, tree ties, bark mulch, and a grease tube.
The first step is preparation. It is best to get the ground wet before digging. Begin digging your hole and set the dirt aside on the tarp.
You will then need to measure the depth of the hole using the yardstick. The goal is for the hole to be 1 inch less than the length of the root ball.
Angle the tree planted slightly above the ground to give the tree room to settle into the soil. This will also increase drainage and encourage the roots to get the oxygen they need. Then you will need to loosen the dirt of the potted tree by rolling the pot around like this.
After you remove the tree from the pot, comb the roots in a downward motion. This will help encourage the roots to establish itself in the native soil.
Step 2 is planting the tree in stakes. Place the tree in the center of the hole.
Measure again to make sure the height of the root ball is 1 inch above the ground.
Refill the hole halfway using the dirt from your tarp.
As you're refilling the hole with dirt, water the hole as well. This will help the tree settle into the ground appropriately.
During this step, treat this area like wet cement. Do not pat down the soil or step on it. We want the tree to settle into the ground on its own. Then, you'll carefully remove the nursery ties with the box cutter and pull out the old cane.
Take the post counter and place it on the stakes. Drive the stakes into the ground parallel to the street until it is 6 feet tall. Do the same with the other side until they're even.
Backfill the hole with the rest of the dirt and provide more water. Remember to treat this area like wet cement.
Now you will tie the tree to the post with burlap ties. Wrap the burlap tie around the tree trunk and the stake in a figure 8 and neatly nail the ties to the stake. Repeat on the other side and make sure the tree has plenty of room to sway and grow a strong trunk.
Step 3 is finishing touches. You'll want to remove any turf within a 6-foot radius of the tree trunk and use that dirt to create a berm that'll help it retain water.
Next, add your bark mulch. Spread the mulch out so it creates a circle that has a 3-foot radius, is 3 inches deep, and is 3 inches away from the tree trunk. Use the mulch to build on the berm.
Then you're going to install the ooze tube, a drip irrigation system that is easy for residents to use. Place the ooze tube around the tree and weave a wooden stake through its slits.
Then you'll hammer the stake into the ground and add at least one other stake on the opposite side of the ooze tube. Add a third stake if necessary.
Using the garden hose, fill up the ooze tube halfway.
Lift the bag up and locate the middle seam at the bottom of the bag. Poke a small hole using a nail and push the emitters into the bag. Apply another emitter on the opposite side. The emitters will slowly leak out water to the tree's roots until the bag is empty.
Once you have filled the ooze tube completely with water, you are done and have now properly planted a tree. This video will demonstrate. Okay, I will switch back over to my presentation. I hope you guys all enjoyed watching how to plant a tree. I know that I learned quite a bit in this internship about how to properly plant a tree and all the steps that go into it, and it is a really great experience. And so hopefully you guys can all see my presentation again. I want to talk a little bit about watering briefly. As I said before, this is a free program for residents to sign up for. All we ask is that residents provide water to their tree. And what we really encourage is direct watering. And this means watering your tree directly instead of relying on rain or sprinklers. And the difference is that when you directly water your tree, the tree is more likely to form deep roots, and these roots will eventually reach groundwater, and the tree can become self-sustaining. Rather than if you relied on sprinklers or rain, the tree will form shallow roots that will align more horizontally, and this means that the roots spread wide and they're going to seek the water on the surface rather than reaching the groundwater. And this just basically threatens the tree's health and its ability to become self-sustaining. So we always encourage residents with or without an ooze tube, if you have a newly planted tree, to water it directly and to follow the 1-1-1 rule, which means that you water one tree for 1 minute and 1 time per week.
Once a week. Once a week.
Once a week, okay, good.
Yep. 1 tree, 1 minute, 1 time per week. So if you want to get involved in our program, you can go to our website at beconnect.org/urbanforest. There's a couple of volunteer forms, or excuse me, there's a couple of forms you can fill out there. There's either a form for volunteering, or if you're a resident who is interested in receiving a free tree, or both, get crazy. Go ahead and go to the website and fill out the form. It's super easy. Our next event is November 13th. You can also email me, my email is provided there, and get involved in our urban forest program to give benefits to our environment, wildlife, and the community. So thank you guys for your time today. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat or shut them out.
Yay, good job.
Thank you.
Well, let's see. Oh, and can you please stop sharing your screen?
Yes.
I don't see any questions, so we're going to go to the next step. I did hear from Mary, just that we're not really sure what's happening on her end with the internet. It worked great yesterday. We tested everything out. So I'll try to work with her in maybe getting a separate presentation, just so that she can still be part of her presentation, can still be included in this video. We are recording this to be posted to our YouTube page. What's up next is a very special project that I'm very excited about. And that is our virtual procession of the species. When I first started here about, well, it's been 4 months now, I was put in touch with Susan Chudy. I was told, you need to talk to Susan. She is involved in pretty much everything you're going to be doing for the next months. And so Susan and I met downtown Mask for some coffee and chatted about some ideas. And I told her, I said, I really just want to make sure that we somehow can still bring the puppets to life this year. And so we decided that we would undertake a project to create a virtual procession of the species parade this year. And really my idea only came to life because Susan and Steve and Emma worked so hard to make it happen, and really contact the schools and the folks that they usually work with. And I was in tears watching the final cut the other day, because it happened, and it's beautiful, and I can't wait to share it with everybody out there who's about to see it. So with that being said, I'm gonna pass the mic over to Susan, Stephen, and Emma to just talk about their experience this year and about the parade and the puppets before I launch the premiere of the procession. So I'll stop sharing my screen now, and you all can take it away.
So we just want to share a little bit about the procession of the species. Ordinarily, we have about 200 children who make puppets. We've been doing this. This would have been our 10th year. It was canceled last year, so this would have been our 10th year. And we were happy to be able to bring together the children that we have in this procession. It's a trimmed down procession, but we hope to be back next year with a large procession with all of the children with all of their puppet sculptures. And I'll just tell a little bit about how those puppets are made.
Sure. Hi, I'm Emma, and I started helping Susan and Steve 5 years ago for the Procession of the Species, which is a parade that happens within Endangered Species Faire. And it is really special because it involves a lot of local kids. So usually we get to go to classrooms, and it's kind of a 4-step process. And the first step is introducing the idea of endangered species to kids. Some of them already know about the endangered species, but some of them don't. And that's kind of hard, but I think it's important to teach future generations. And we like to keep it really hopeful and fun, as well as being important and not just an art project. So they pick a endangered species or a threatened species, and they learn 3 facts about that animal and get to know that animal. And from there, they do a paper packing process where we build out newspaper. This can be a group project or it can be solo. We have masking tape and paper and create this. And then the next step is paper mache, which is messy and fun. And we kind of create the shell of the animal. And then the fourth step is painting it to look like the animal that they chose. And we want them to paint as realistically as possible, and just like have fun with it while also learning. So this year was a little different, of course, but usually that's how it goes.
We did get some puppets made, however, and we'll see them in just a few minutes. I'd like to thank a lot of people who made this happen. I just think Caitlin Dalby is so brave to go forth. And this is Steve, who's also a puppet maker and usually works at Wildflower Open Classroom. But Caitlin said this is going to happen one way or another. We're going to have an endangered species fair. And she just really gutsy and lots of energy and made it happen. And I'd also like to thank the people at Thrive Homeschool Program, where I worked with kids to make puppets this year. And you'll see those kids in just a minute. We also had from Sherwood Montessori, Eric, Brenda, and Kim made puppets with their children. And at Wildflower Open Classroom, we had Colin, whose class made puppets, little kindergartners. And we really appreciate all the work that the teachers put into this, that Caitlin put into this. And you'll see some of the board of directors with puppets as well in this parade. Emma?
I'd also like to thank Susan and Steve, of course, because this is their passion project, one of many, and as well as Dan Carter and Jim Miller, because they directed the video that you're about to see, and they just did an amazing job, and we're really lucky that this all came together.
And Emma and I also did a series of videos to show you how to make puppets. So in the future, you can make puppets with us, and you can see those on Beck's YouTube channel. So thanks to everybody for making that happen. It's really important for children to learn about our interconnectedness. And this teaches them about this. They become attached to their puppets and they learn why they're endangered. And they know that they can do things to help. That this isn't, as Emma was saying, we don't want this to be a negative experience. We want this to be a positive experience. You can help. Most animals that are endangered or threatened or on that list of animals in trouble are threatened because they of loss of habitat, and the children understand that. And the way that we can deal with loss of habitat is to live more lightly on the earth, and the children understand that as well. And so living lightly on the earth is one way that we can save endangered species. And we're happy to work with these children, and we are just always in love with them and the whole process. It's a hard job too. It's not easy for kids to do this, and they do a wonderful job. So we appreciate all the kids who participated over all the years, and especially these kids who are doing a virtual Procession of Species. So Caitlin, want to take it away?
Thanks. Yes, thank you for sharing. Let's see.
So bees pollinate flowers, so they get the pollen out of the flowers and then they spread pollen on the flowers. Bees only sting you if they're threatened. bees sting to protect themselves. Bees make honey by spitting nectar into their children's body. There can only be one queen bee in the hive. If there is two, they will fight to the death. If one hatches and the other doesn't, it destroys the other larva. Here are some ways that you can help bees. Planting native plants like California poppies, lupin, and yarrow helps native bees because they are used to them. Also, a bee hotel makes habitat for native bees. Buy organic foods and don't use pesticides in your garden. That helps native and honeybees.
Hello, I'm Luann Mans, a member of the Beck Board of Directors, and I'm here to share how elephants are endangered and how we can protect this species from becoming extinct. This puppet was made about 5 years ago by the Chico State Elephant Club with Rebecca Benelli as the faculty advisor. Wild elephants can be found in both Africa and Asia. They are found most often in savannas, grasslands, and forests, but occupy a wide range of habitats, including deserts, swamps, and highlands in tropical and subtropical regions. Today, the greatest threat to African elephants is wildlife crime, primarily poaching for the illegal ivory trade, while the greatest threat to Asian elephants is habitat loss. Some ways you can help protect elephants and ensure they don't become extinct include not buying or selling wearing ivory, buying elephant-friendly coffee and other goods, supporting conservation efforts that are working to protect elephants, and being aware and educating others about elephants and the difficulties they are facing. It's critical to conserve elephants since they play such a vital role in our ecosystems, as well as contributing towards the economy and community in many areas.
These are the children of Thrive Homeschool Program: Abby, Danielle, Echo, Zoe, Ava, Silas, Julia, Harper, Daisy, Xander, Corbin, and Elliot.
My name is Abby. My animal is a koala. When koalas are born, they live for 6 months in their mother's pouch, and then for another 6 months they live in their mother's back. Koalas live in eastern Australia. They don't drink water because they get all their water from their eucalyptus leaves. They can be as long as 22 inches to 31 inches, and they can weigh 14 pounds. They have habitat loss due to humans moving in and fire.
My name is Ava, and this is my turtle whale. More of a sea tortoise because I forgot to give it fins. I gave it legs and tail. But anyways, it lives in the ocean. It would eat sardines. And well, really, why is it's endangered? Because people are throwing trash into the ocean and littering it.
My name is Corbin, and I made an elephant. Elephants are care for other elephants, and also elephants have long trunks because so then they can drink water, and they can grab leaves. They can grab leaves and grass. And also they live in Africa and Asia. And also they live in savannah too. My name is Daisy, and my animal is the polar bear. And its main food chain is seals, and it can its weight, and it can get to 5 to 19 feet long, and it can get to 700 to 1,500 feet long. I mean, it can weigh that much. And it can hold its breath under the water for 3 minutes. And it lives in the Arctic. And they're good swimmers. They're endangered because, well, they're not really endangered, they're just threatened. And their main threat is humans.
Hi, my name is Danielle, and this is my ring-tailed lemur. Most lemurs live on the island of Madagascar. Some lemurs live in tropical rainforests on that island. Lemurs leap from trees in the understory layer and the canopy layer. Some lemurs travel along the forest floor. Lemurs are small, furry primates. Some lemurs travel alone. Others travel in groups. Lemurs eat fruit, leaves, and flowers. Some eat insects. Lemurs have a good sense of smell. Some male lemurs wave their smelly tails to scare their enemies.
Hi, my name is Echo, and my animal is an elephant. An elephant has tucks and they never stop growing. That is a sign of an old elephant. An elephant lives in Africa, forests and jungles. An animal's food, they eat up to 12 to 18 hours of grass every day. Their prey is an animal's predator. The elephant doesn't have many predators, but a young, injured, or baby elephant can be attacked by wild wolves, hyenas, crocodiles, or alligators. The animal's family, an elephant's pregnancy period lasts for 22 months or longer. A baby elephant feeds on its mother's milk for 2 years or longer. And it is an elephant. An interesting fact about an elephant is that it's the world's largest land animal.
My name is Elliot. My animal is a wild dog.
Where does it live?
Africa.
And what does it eat?
Antelopes.
And what are some interesting facts about the wild dog?
My name is Harper, and this is a giraffe. It can run. So this is a giraffe. It can eat 100 pounds of greens every day. And their predators are lions. So they can run really fast with their long legs.
Hello, my name is Julia. This is my snow leopard. Snow leopards are endangered because humans use their fur, claws, and organs in medicine. A mother can give birth to 2 to 3 cubs at a time. Snow leopards will eat other snow leopards if they have to, and their fur blends in with snowy mountains. And a mother will give her life for her cubs. She'll do anything for her cubs.
My name is Cyrus, and this is a black panther. And they live in Africa and Asia. Did you know that our black panthers are actually leopards? they're really good at swimming, climbing, jumping, and they have really good eyesight and they can heal really good. And their jaws are really strong. And they eat monkeys, rabbits, birds, and deer. Hi, my name is Xander, and cheetahs are endangered because coyotes and tons of other animals attack cheetahs' babies. Cheetahs are extremely good at running and climbing, and they have a really good eyesight. Their skin color blends into the grass.
My name is Zoe. My spider is the baby sapphire. They live in southern India in Sri Lanka. They live in holes of tall trees in the forest. They eat fruit flies, mantis, and other insects. Their predators are tarantula hawk and other big wasps. Their fangs can grow up to 3 or 4 inches. The adults grow up to 6 inches long, and males live up to 3 to 4 years. Females can live up to 12, and they are endangered because of habitat loss and people keeping them as pets.
Hi, my name is Emily Donaldson. I am the Recycling and Rubbish Education Program Coordinator at the Butte Environmental Council. My endangered species is the orangutan. Orangutans are critically endangered. They live in the lowland rainforests of Southeast Asia, Borneo, and Sumatra. They spend nearly all of their lives in the trees. Orangutan populations have declined 50% in the past 60 years due to logging and hunting. Ways that people can protect this species are to avoid buying products that have unsustainable palm oil, because a lot of the destruction of their habitat is due to palm oil plantations, to buy FSC certified wood. FSC is Forest Stewardship Council, and to support organizations that work to protect the orangutan. This was made from upcycled cardboard, newspaper, and a pipe cleaner. Thank you.
Lives in Colombia, Chile, and Argentina. Indian condors build their nests on rocky cliffs. Indian condors are scavengers who eat dead animals. Indian condors are endangered because of loss of habitat and humans think they are threat. Indian condor babies are named chicks. Chicks don't try to fly until they're 6 months old. Chicks stay with their parents until they're 2 years old. And ta-da! And that's my thing, which also open it. That one is last. So the Indian cat lives in rocky areas. It also lives in rocky areas in Argentina, I'm just gonna say Bolivia, Chile, and Peru. Chile and Peru. They hunt and eat like the chinchilla. They hunt and eat like the chinchilla and mountain viscachas. It has 1 to 2 babies per litter. They live for 16 years. The Indian cats are endangered because of habitat loss and degradation.
Hi, I'm Becky. I'm on the board of directors for the Butte Environmental Council, and this is my great blue heron puppet. Great blue herons are the largest wading bird in North America. They live on crustaceans like crawdads. They eat frogs, they eat insects, they eat fish. They like to be all by themselves and out wading in the water. And what do we have in a lot in Northern California? Flooded rice fields. So that's where they're using their time to fish and eat. And this puppet has been in at least 3 endangered species fairs, Procession of the Species. It was made out of recycled bed sheets, paper mache with newspaper, and a beautiful paint job. And they're not endangered. Even though we're putting it at the Endangered Species Fair, it's not endangered yet because of all the rice fields, but it's important that we conserve and make sure that we protect their flooded waterlands and not let any pollution get into them so that they can continue to thrive and be the Beck mascot, the great blue heron. Thanks, everybody.
I go to Sherwood Montessori, and I did the blood-beard bat. And my bat is endangered because people have been killing them. But trust me, these guys are adorable.
Where does your bat live?
And the bat lives in Peru. Bye!
I go to Sherwood Montessori. I did the Barrington land iguana. It lives in Ecuador. It is endangered because it is overhunted.
I go to Sherwood Montessori. I did the Ecuadorian grass mouse. It lives in South America. It is endangered because of habitat loss.
Hi, my name is Evergreen. The name of my school is Sherwood Montessori. And I am in 2nd grade. The name of my endangered species is the Andean cat. The Andean cat lives in South America, and it is endangered because of poaching, climate change, and loss of habitat.
I go to Sherwood Montessori School. I did the Southern River otter. It lives in South America, and it is endangered because of illegal hunting.
My name is Connor Lish. I go to Sherwood Montessori. My endangered species is the poodoo. It lives in Chile, South America. It is the smallest deer in the world. The poodoo is endangered because habitat loss from humans. Humans also hunt them for their meat and fur. They also must compete with other deer species. I'm in Sherwood Montessori, and I did the Darwin fox, and it lives in the Chile, and it's endangered of lost habitat.
I go to Sherwood Montessori School. I did the jaguar. It lives in Central and South America. It is endangered because hunting and habitat loss.
I go to Sherwood Montessori. I did the man wolf. It lives in South America. It's endangered because deforestation.
So we must save the animals, especially ones that look like this. Well, they don't look like this initially. They look more like The tail feathers are bigger. I didn't have time to make a tail. That's what they look like.
Hello. I go to Sherwood Montessori. I did the basking truck. It lives in South America. It's endangered because it gets hunted.
I go to Sherwood Montessori. I did the Black Squirrel movie. It lives in South America. It's endangered because of global warming.
Go to Sherwood Montessori. I did the Darwin fox. It lives in Chile, South America, and it's endangered because of habitat fragmentation.
Hi there, it's Aaron Kuntz with the Butte Environmental Council. I'm on the board of directors, and today I'm here with a papier-mâché mountain gorilla. Mountain gorillas can be found in Rwanda and Uganda, and they're critically endangered. Some interesting facts about them are they're about 400, they can get up to 450 pounds in weight, and they're around 5 feet tall, usually when they stand on their two back legs. And things that you could do to protect them would be share facts about them with your friends, talk about how they're endangered. You can even go visit them when it's safe to do so. Tourism is a big reason why they protect and they make sure to protect the gorillas in those areas. So that's something you can do, as well as supporting agencies that work there to protect them as well. So that's what I have for the mountain gorilla, and talk to you next time.
What's your name?
Ethan.
What school do you go to?
Sherwood Montessori.
What kind of butterfly is that?
Lotus blue.
Smith's blue.
Smith's blue.
And what does the Smith's blue butterfly eat? Buckwheat.
Buckwheat.
What's your name?
Amber.
What school do you go to?
Sherwood Montessori.
What kind of endangered species is that?
Lotus blue.
And what do the lotus blue like to eat?
Coastal foil.
What's your name?
Delilah.
What school do you go to?
Sherwood Montessori.
And what kind of endangered species is that?
Lotus blue.
And where do they live?
By a meadow.
What's your name?
Lila.
And what school do you go to?
Montessori.
And what kind of butterfly is that?
No.
Lang's meadowlark. And what is your favorite thing about it?
Orange.
The orange, awesome. What's your name?
My name is Aurora.
And what school do you go to?
I go to Sherwood Montessori.
And what kind of endangered species do you have there?
The lotus blue butterfly.
And what's your favorite thing about the lotus blue butterfly?
That when it does this, you can see how it does that, and when it does like this, you can see the spots everywhere.
Beautiful. What's your name?
Julian.
And what school do you go to?
Sherwood Montessori.
And what kind of endangered species do you have there?
The lotus blue butterfly.
And what's the threat to the lotus blue butterfly?
Scientists don't know.
What's your name?
Joseph Richardson.
And what school do you go to?
Sherwood Montessori.
And what kind of endangered species do you have?
Lotus blue.
And what's your favorite thing about the lotus blue butterfly?
It flies around and it eats coastal tree foil.
Awesome. What's your name?
Jake.
And what school do you go to, Jake?
Sherwood Montessori.
And what kind of butterfly do you have there, Jake?
Monarch.
And what's your favorite thing about the monarch butterfly?
It flies.
Beautiful. What's your name?
Layla.
And what school do you go to, Layla?
Sherwood Montessori.
And what kind of endangered species do you have there?
Lotus blue.
And what's your favorite thing about the lotus blue butterfly?
It's very pretty.
It's beautiful. What's your name?
Kamari.
And what school do you go to, Kamari? And what kind of butterfly do you have there?
Lotus blue.
And what's your favorite thing about the lotus blue butterfly?
The wings.
The wings. What's your name?
Luna.
And what school do you go to, Luna?
Montessori.
And is that the Lang's metalmark butterfly? And where do the Lang's metalmark butterflies live? Dunes. What's your name?
Milan.
And what school do you go to?
The Sherwood Montessori.
And what kind of butterfly is that?
The Lang's metalmark.
And what's the threat to the Lang's metalmark?
Sand disappearing.
What's your name?
Max.
And what school do you go to, Max?
Sherwood.
And what kind of butterfly do you have there?
A Lang's metalmark.
And what does the Lang's metalmark eat? Buckwheat.
Buckwheat.
Hi, what's your name?
Faire.
And what school do you go to?
Sherwood.
And what kind of endangered species do you have there?
Like
The lotus blue butterfly.
lotus blue butterfly.
And what's your favorite thing about the lotus blue butterfly?
The color of the wings.
What's your name?
Oak.
And what school do you go to, Oak?
Sherwood.
And what kind of butterfly do you have there?
Smith blue.
And what's your favorite thing about your Smith's blue butterfly?
It's blue.
Hi, my name's Bryce Goldstein. I'm on the Beck Board of Directors. This puppet is Gaia. She represents Mother Earth and all of the living things on Earth. She's been used in the Endangered Species Faire procession for probably decades. So Earth's habitat is our solar system, but also includes everything around us, the trees and you and me and all the other animals. So there are unfortunately some things that threaten Mother Earth, like climate change, deforestation, pollution, and other ecological damage. What we can do about that is get involved in our local environmental organizations, spend some time with Mother Earth out in nature for Earth Day, and give a hoot, don't pollute, all of those great things. Happy Earth Day! Happy Earth Day!
Feathers, fur, or fins. Feathers, fur, or fins. If it walks on legs or it flies on wings, if it runs or crawls or slithers or swims, it's got its place in the scheme of things. Feathers, fur, or fins. Feathers, fur, or fins. Shell or skin or scale. They're Mother Nature's marvels, from the ant up to the whale. And if we ever lose them, they won't be back again. So let's all take good care of feathers, fur, or fins. Feathers, fur, or fins. Feathers, fur, or fins. If it walks on legs or it flies on wings, if it runs or crawls or slithers or swims, it's got its place in the scheme of things. Feathers, fur, or fins.
Did you want to say anything else about that, or Steve, or I can pass the mic over to Aaron and Becky to make some closing comments for the fair. But do you have anything to add about the procession? No? Okay, great. What I actually was going to say, or was thinking maybe you would say, is that song at the end there is, actually, why don't you just say something about it?
Oops, where am I?
We see you and hear you.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
the children all learned this song as they're making their puppets, and so the very end of the Procession of the Species is all of the kids singing Feathers, Fur, and Fins.
That version that Susan sent us is about 5 minutes long. So if you want to learn it, you will learn it very fast if you watch it just one time through. But always fun to do with the kids, or anybody of any age can do it. On Ecotopia, even very fun, and I'm just really looking forward to being able to do this in person next year and being all together and really feeling that energy. I think we feel it a little bit here even in this virtual space, but you know, it's gonna be pretty awesome when we get to all be in person together again. So with that being said, I'm gonna sign out and thank everybody for your participation. I'm gonna pass it over to a couple of our board of director members from here at Beck, just for some closing comments. And thank you for all of you for attending and watching. And I just am so glad to see this come to life.
Thank you, Caitlin. Woo. Thank you, Caitlin. Awesome job, everybody. How much fun is that? I'm pretty sure Aaron's on here, but I'm Becky Holden. I'm on the board. You saw my video. And wanted to, again, reiterate thank you to everybody that put so much time and work into this, Susan and Stephen and Darren Carter and Caitlin and, you know, Emily with the rare. I was really wanting to just go, yeah, that, yeah, oh, and you covered that and that and that. And that's the waste. And Kathy, you brought tears to my eyes. So thank you for those wonderful stories. I want to hear about the web later. But this is the Endangered Species Faire spirit captured right here and recorded for forever for posterity. Well done. So thank you, everybody. Go back.
Go back.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Becky. And I just want to thank Caitlin, thank everyone involved for getting this together. It really was beyond even what I was thinking was capable during this time in capturing the spirit of the fair. So yeah, just thanks so much to everybody, and just want to give a shout out, you know, for us to keep doing these things. We have to we're a community-run organization, and so we do need the support of our community to be able to keep doing that and to elevate our impact in the community. So I encourage everyone to share Beck with a friend or a family member, and if you yourself is not a member, go to our website, becknet.org, and become a member. We'd really appreciate it, and it makes a huge difference for us. Every single dollar we painstakingly you know, use as effective and efficient as possible. And so, yeah, just want to thank everyone again. Such an incredible Procession of Species and presentations.
Thank you, Gianna, and thank you, Dan, and thank you for the Chico Velo, or for the presentation about bikes, and thank you for John All talking about what's going on with our fish and the salmon in the creeks. And yeah, wanted to make sure we got everybody's names put in there. And we missed out on Mary's presentation, but we'll hopefully hear more about that later. We can hopefully post it on the back page, so stay tuned for that. Thanks, Erin.
You know, I just want to say, you know, these bubbles that are coming up, this program, the comment bubbles, and what I feel is with the kids. So there's the little kids, but there's the older kids, you know, I mean, the young adults from the high school, and I can't remember his name, but marvelous. It feels like this bubbling up from underneath us old people who have been, you know, doing what we do, and this bubbling up of buoyancy and you're all part of it, the youth, but anyway, it's coming up and just lifting, and thank you all so much.
I said I was going to say my last words, but, you know, in the science field, we call that standing on the shoulders of giants. So, wow, I'm going to get emotional. We couldn't do it without your leadership. So thank you to the generations that have come before us, younger people. And it is so exciting to see the younger generations from us coming up and doing amazing things and being interested and involved and just passionate. And you know, it really is, it's gonna be it's a forever, you know, I don't want to call it a fight, but it's, you know, something that we will always be doing and passing on to younger people and keeping everybody as excited to do this work. So thanks for saying that, Kathy. I see a lot of head nods. I did put the link to the Procession of Species. I just made it public in the chat here. It'll be posted on our YouTube channel, and then it'll also be on the link will be on our social media in case anybody missed it or would like to rewatch it or watch it in a more higher definition than we could show through this platform. So we had kind of layers of platforms going on here. So the YouTube video itself should be a little bit clearer, and you can pause it and go back and sing the whole song and do the whole thing. So, and if there are any other comments or questions, I'm happy to open the floor up now. No? All right. Well, I think we'll call it a day, call it a year, and just get the planning started for next year. I'm super excited. Thank you, everybody, for making this happen. I will see you all on the other side.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay!
Yay!
Woohoo! That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Thank you, guys.
Why can't I